Hi, this is Jerry Hendigas inviting you to join me as once again we relive those great old radio classics. Welcome once again to the best of the old-time radio classics. Last week we presented the play Pygmalion, in which two of the most respected stage actors, Alfred Lunt and Lynn Fontanne, appeared. In our first hour today, we'll be hearing more from that fine married couple. On October 13, 1940, NBC presented a poem by Alice Miller, delivered by Lynn Fontanne. The network received such a huge response to that play that in an unprecedented move, NBC turned around and aired it once again just 2 weeks later. Now, this is a powerful play delivered in an even more powerful manner by Miss Fontanne. Lynn Fontanne is introduced by her famous husband, Alfred Lunt. From October 27, 1940, here now is Lynn Fontanne in Alice Miller's powerful poem, The White Cliffs.
On the 13th of October, the National Broadcasting Company was privileged to present one of the great ladies of the American theater, Miss Lynn Fontanne. Miss Fontanne gave an eloquent interpretation of The White Cliffs, a new narrative poem by Alice Duer Miller. Public response to the program was so instantaneous and so great that the National Broadcasting Company presents what is indeed a demand performance of the program. Miss Fontanne, who is currently appearing in Robert Sherwood's moving stage success, There Shall Be No Night, will be introduced to you by her husband, with whom she has co-starred, Mr. Alfred Lunt.
The White Cliffs is a story in verse which has recently been published in book form. Miss Fontanne and I think it is a beautiful and inspiring story, and we are very glad indeed to have this opportunity of again presenting it to the radio audience. It is the story of an American girl who marries an Englishman and sees the English at their best and their worst, at their stodgiest and stuffiest, and at their most heroic. In these dark days, when Britain is fighting for her life, when bombs are dropping on king and cockney alike, it is peculiarly appropriate that Americans should know who are the people of this little island who are standing alone in defiance of all the dictatorships. So now will you please try to imagine that you are listening to the voice of an American woman speaking to you from her home in England, telling you her own story.
I have loved England dearly and deeply since that first morning, shining and pure, the white cliffs of Dover I saw, rising steeply out of the sea that once made her secure. I had no thought then of husband or lover. I was a traveler, the guest of a week. Yet when they pointed the white cliffs of Dover, startled I found there were tears on my cheek. I have loved England, and still as a stranger. Here is my home, and I still am alone. Now in her hour of trial and danger, only the English are really her own. In 1914, early May, London was crowded and rich and gay. A light blue carpet on the stair and tall young footmen everywhere, tall young men with English faces standing rigidly in their places. I went up the stairs between them all, strange and frightened and shy and small, and as I entered the ballroom door, saw something I never had seen before, except in portraits. A stout old guest with a broad blue ribbon across his breast. That blue, as deep as the southern sea, bluer than skies can ever be. The Countess of Salisbury, Edward III, no damn merit, the Duke. I heard my own voice saying, upon my word, the Garter, and clapped my hands like a child. Someone beside me turned and smiled, and looking down at me said, I fancy you're Bertie's Australian cousin Nancy. He told me to tell you that he'd be late at the Foreign Office and not to wait supper for him, but to go with me and try and behave as if I were he. I should have told him on the spot that I had no cousin, that I was not Australian Nancy, that my name was Susan Dunn, and that I came from a small white town on a deep-cut bay in the smallest state in the USA. I meant to tell him, but changed my mind. I needed a friend, and he seemed kind. So I put my gloved hand into his glove, and we danced together and fell in love. Young and in love, how magical the phrase, how magical the fact. Who has not yearned over young lovers when to their amaze they fall in love and find their love returned? We went to the Tower, we went to the zoo, we saw every flower in the gardens at Kew. We saw King Charles a-prancing on his long-tailed horse and thought him more entrancing than better kings, of course. At a strange early hour in St. James's Palace yard, we watched in a shower the changing of the guard. And I said, what a pity when London is a city whose beauties never end. John had one of those English faces that always were and always will be found in the cream of English places till England herself sink into the sea. A blonde, bowed face with prominent eyes, a little bit bluer than English skies. And what a voice he had, gentle, profound, clear, masculine. I melted at the sound. And still I did not see my life was changed, utterly different, by this love estranged for ever and ever from my native land, that I was now of that unhappy band who lose the old and cannot gain the new, however loving and however true to their new duties. I could never be an Englishwoman. There was that in me, Puritan, stubborn, that would not agree to English standards, though I did not see the truth, because I thought them, good or ill, so great a people. And I think so still. The English are frosty when you're no kith or kin of theirs, but how they alter when once they take you in. The kindest, the truest, the best friends ever known. It's hard to remember how they froze you to the bone. They showed me all London, Johnny and his friends. They took me to the country for long weekends. I never was so happy. I never had such fun. I stayed many weeks in England instead of just one. But a day came when I was forced to face facts. I went down to see the family place, John's mother, and the cradle of his race. A red brick manor house in Devon in a beechwood of old grey trees, ivy climbing to the clustered chimneys, rustling in the wet south breeze, gardens trampled down by Cromwell's army, orchards of apple trees and pears, casements that had looked for the Armada, and a ghost on the stairs. Johnny's mother, the Lady Jean, child of a penniless Scottish peer, was handsome, worn, high-coloured, lean, with eyes like Johnny's, more blue and clear, like bubbles of glass in her fine tanned face. And presently she said, as they sooner or later always say, "You're an American, Miss Dunn. Really, you do not speak like one." She seemed to think she'd said a thing both courteous and flattering. I answered, though my wrist were weak with anger, "Not at all, I speak. At least I've always thought this true, as educated people do in any country, even mine." Really? I saw her head incline. I saw her ready to assert, "Americans are easily hurt." I saw the house with its oaken stair and the Tudor rose on the newel post, the paneled upper gallery where they told me you heard the family ghost, a gentle, unhappy ghost who sighs outside one's door on the night one dies. I saw the picture of every son, Percy the eldest, and John and Bill in Chinese customs, and the youngest one, Peter the sailor, at Osborne and the daughter Enid, married, alas, to a civil servant in farmer dress. A little thing happened just before we left. The evening papers came. John, flicking them over to find a score, spoke for the first time a certain name, the name of a town in a distant land, etched on our hearts by a murderer's hand. Mother and son exchanged a glance, a curious glance of strength and dread. I thought, what matter to them if Franz Ferdinand dies? One of them said, this might be serious. Yes, you're right, the other answered. It really might. The English love their country with a love steady and simple, wordless, dignified. I think it sets their patriotism above all others. We Americans have pride, we glory in our country's short romance, we boast of it and love it. But Englishmen will serve day after day, obey the law, and do dull tasks that keep a nation strong. Once I remember how I saw pale, shabby people standing in a long line in the twilight and the misty rain to pay their tax. I then saw England plain. Johnny and I were married. England then had been a week at war, and all the men wore uniform as English people can, unconscious of it. Percy, the best man, as thin as paper and as smart as paint, bade us goodbye with admirable restraint, went from the church to catch his train to hell, and died, saving his batman from a shell. We went down to Devon in a warm summer rain, knowing that our happiness might never come again. I, not forgetting till death us do part, was outrageously happy with death in my heart. Lovers in peacetime with 50 years to live have time to tease and quarrel and question what to give. But lovers in wartime better understand the fullness of living with death close at hand. My father wrote me a letter. My father, scholarly, indolent, strong, teaching Greek better than high school students repay, teaching Greek in the winter, but all summer long sailing a yawl in Narragansett Bay. So, Susan, my dear, the letter began, you've fallen in love with an Englishman. Well, they're a manly, attractive lot if you happen to like them, which I do not. I'm a Yankee through and through, and I don't like them or the things they do. Whenever it's come to a knockdown fight with us, they were wrong and we right. If you don't believe me, cast your mind back over history, and what do you find? They certainly had no justification for that maddening plan to impose taxation without any form of representation. Your man may be all that a man should be, only don't bring him back to me saying he can't get decent tea. He could have got his tea all right in Boston Harbor a certain night when your great-great-grandmother, also a Sioux, shook enough tea from her husband's shoe to supply her house for a week or two. The War of 1812 seems to me about as just as a war could be. How could we help but come to grips with a nation that stopped and searched our ships and took off our seamen for no other reason except that they needed crews that season? I can get angry still at the tale of their letting the Alabama sail and Palmerston being insolent to Lincoln and Seward over the Trent. All very long ago, you'll say, but whenever I go up Boston way, I drive through Concord, that neck of the wood, where once the embattled farmers stood, and I think of Revere and the old North Steeple, and I say, by heck, we're the only people who licked them, not once but twice. Never forget it, that's my advice. They have their points, they're honest and brave, loyal and sure, sure as the grave. They make other nations seem pale and flighty, but they do think England is God Almighty, and you must remind them now and then that other countries breed other men, from all of which you will think me rather unjust. I am your devoted father. I read and saw my home with a sudden yearning, the small white wooden house, the grass-green door, my father's study with the fire burning and books piled on the floor. I saw the Dioscuri, 2 black kittens, stalking relentlessly an empty spool. I saw a little girl in scarlet mittens, trudging through snow to school. I settled down in Devon when Johnny went to France. Such a tame ending to a great romance. 2 lonely women with nothing much to do but to get to know each other. She did, and I did too. Mornings at the rectory, learning how to roll bandages and always saving light and coal. Oh, that house was bitter as winter closed in. In spite of heavy stockings and woolen next the skin, I was cold and wretched, and never unaware of John, more cold and wretched in a trench out there. All that long winter I wanted so much to complain, but my mother-in-law, as far as I could see, felt no such impulse, though she was always in pain, and as the winter fogs grew thick, took to walking with a stick heavily, and not for the blinking of an eye did she ever stop thinking of the suffering of Englishmen and her 2 sons in the trenches. Now and then I could forget for an instant in a book or a letter, but she never, never forgot either one, Percy and John, though I knew she loved one better, Percy, the wastrel, the gambler, the eldest son. I think I shall always remember until I die her face that day in December, when in a hospital ward together she and I were writing letters for wounded men and dying, writing and crying over their words, so silly and simple and loving. Suddenly looking up, I saw the old vicar moving like fate down the hospital ward until he stood still beside her where she sat at a bed. "Dear friend, come home. I have tragic news," he said. She looked straight at him without a spasm of fear, her face not stern or masked. "Is it Percy or John?" she asked. "Percy." She dropped her eyes. "I am needed here. Surely you know I cannot go until every letter is written. The dead must wait on the living," she said. "This is my work. I must stay." And she did, the whole long day. Out of the dark and dearth of happiness on earth, out of a world inured to death and pain, on a fair spring morn to me a son was born, and hope was born, the future lived again. To me a son was born. The lonely, hard, forlorn travail was, as the Bible tells, forgot. How old, how commonplace, to look upon the face of your firstborn and glory in your lot. To look upon his face and understand your place among the unknown dead in churchyards lying. To see the reason why you lived and why you die, even to find a certain grace in dying. To know the reason why buds blow and blossoms die, why beauty fades and genius is undone, and how unjustified is any human pride in all creation save this common one. And John came home on leave, and all was joy and thankfulness to me, because my boy was not a baby only, but the heir to the Devon acres and a name as old as England. Somehow I became almost an Englishwoman, almost at one with all they ever did, all they had done. I want him called John after you, or if not that, I'd rather... But the eldest son is always called Percy, dear. I don't ask to call him Hiram after my father, but the eldest son is always called Percy, dear. But I hate the name Percy. I like Richard or Ronald or Peter like your brother, or Ian or Noel or Donald. But the eldest is always called Percy, dear. So the vicar christened him Percy. And Lady Jean gave to the child and me the empty place in her heart, Poor lady, it was as if she had seen the world destroyed, the extinction of her race, her country, her class, her name, and now she saw them live again. And I would hear her say, "No, I admire Americans. My daughter-in-law was an American." Thus she would well repay the debt, and I was grateful. The English made life hard for those who did not come to their aid. They must come in the spring. Don't they care sixpence who's right? What a ridiculous thing, saying they're too proud to fight. Saying they're too proud to fight. Wilson's pro-German, I'm told. No, it's financial. Oh, quite. All they care for is gold. Seem to like writing a note. Yes, as a penman he's bold. No, it's the Irish vote. What could I do but ache and long that my country, peaceful, rich and strong, should come and do battle for England's sake? What could I do but long and ache? And at last, like the dawn of a calm, fair day after a night of terror and storm, they came. My young, light-hearted countrymen, tall and gay, looking the world over in search of fun and fame, marching through London to the beat of a boastful air, seeing for the first time Piccadilly and Leicester Square, all the bands playing, over there, send the word to beware. And as the American flag went fluttering by, Englishmen uncovered, and I began to cry. How beautiful upon the mountains, how beautiful upon the downs, how beautiful in the village post office, on the pavements of towns, how beautiful in the huge print of newspapers, beautiful while telegraph wires hum, while telephone bells wildly jingle the news that peace has come at last, that all wars cease. How beautiful upon the mountains are the footsteps of the messengers of peace. In the depth of the night, when the old house was sleeping, I lying alone in a desolate bed, heard soft on the staircase a slow footstep creeping, the ear of the living, the step of the dead. In the depth of the night, betwixt midnight and morning, a step drawing near on the old oaken floor, on the stair, in the gallery, the ghost that gives warning of death, by that heart-breaking sigh at my door. Bad news is not broken by kind, tactful word. The message is spoken ere the word can be heard. The eye and the bearing, the breath make it clear, and the heart is despairing before the ears hear. I do not remember the words that they said. Killed, Douay, November, I knew John was dead. All done and over that day long ago, the white cliffs of Dover, little did I know. Nanny brought up my son as his father before him, austere on questions of manners, habits, and food, generously yielding a mother's right to adore him, thinking that mothers never did sons much good, bringing him up much better than I could do it, teaching him to be civil and manly and cool in the face of danger, and then before I knew it, the time had come for him to go off to school, to be rid of women's teaching, set on the road to manhood at 7 years old, into a world where a mother's hands vainly reaching will never more clasp and comfort and hold. Rabbits in the park scuttling as we pass, little white tails against the green grass. Next time, Mother, I really must bring my gun. I know you don't like shooting, but John's own son, that blonde, bold face, those clear, steady eyes, hard to be certain that the dead don't rise. Jogging on his pony through the autumn day, bad year for fruit, mother, but good salt hay. Bowling for the village as his father had before, coming home at evening to read the cricket score, back to the old house where they had begun, just as his father and his grandfather had done. Later than many, earlier than some, I knew the die was cast, that war must come, that war must come. Night after night I lay, steeling a broken heart to face the day when he, my son, would tread the very same path that his father trod. When the day came, I was not steeled, not ready. Foolish, wild words issued from my lips. My child, why should you die for England too? He smiled. Is she not worth it if I must, he said. John would have answered yes, but John was dead. Is she worth dying for? My love, my one and only love, had died, and now his son asks me, his alien mother, to assay the worth of England to mankind today. I thought of my father's deep traditional wrath against England, the redcoat bully, the ancient foe, that second reaping of hate, that aftermath of a ruler's folly and ignorance long ago. Long, long ago. Yet who can honestly say England is utterly changed? Not I, not I. Arrogance, ignorance, folly are here today, and for these my son must die? I thought of these years, these last dark, terrible years, when the rulers of England bade the English believe lies as the price of peace, lies and fears, lies that corrupt and fears that sap and deceive. Rulers of England, for them must I send out my only son to die? And then, I thought of the history of Englishmen, of Queen Elizabeth stepping down over the stones of Plymouth town to greet the men who had sailed away from Rocky Inlet and Wooded Bay, free men, undisciplined, uncontrolled, some of them pirates, all of them bold, feeling their fate was England's fate, coming to save it a little late, much too late for the easy way, much too late, and yet never quite too late to win in that last worst fight. Men who have governed England know that dreadful line that they may not pass. Even Elizabeth long ago, honored and loved and bold as brass, daring and subtle, arrogant, clever, yet even the great Elizabeth never dared oppose the sullen might of the English standing upon a right. And were they not English, our forefathers? Never more English than when they shook the dust of her sod from their feet forever, angrily seeking a shore where in his own way a man might worship his God. Never more English than when they dared to be rebels against her. That stern, intractable sense of that which no man can stomach and still be free, writing when in the course of human events, writing it out so all the world could see whence come the powers of all just governments. The tree of liberty grew and changed and spread, but the seed was English. I am American bred. I have seen much to hate here, much to forgive. But in a world where England is finished and dead, I do not wish to live.
The poem you've just heard read is The White Cliffs by Alice Duer Miller. It was interpreted by the distinguished actress, Miss Lynn Fontanne, currently co-starring with her husband, Mr. Alfred Lunt, in Robert Sherwood's moving play, There Shall Be No Night. Original music was composed and conducted by Dr. Frank Black. This performance is the second given by Miss Fontanne of Mrs. Miller's poem, and was presented because of the overwhelming popular demand that followed its original reading on October 13th. This is the National Broadcasting Company, RCA Building, Radio City, New York.
You're listening to the best of the old-time radio classics, and I'm your host, Jerry Hendigas. In The White Cliffs, you heard reference to Robert F. Sherwood's There Shall Be No Night. In the CBC dramatic series, with support from Richard Wharf and Thomas Gomez, Alfred Lunt and Lynn Fontanne once again team up to star in this 11th episode of Let's Face the Facts and Robert F. Sherwood's There Shall Be No Night.
Tonight, as number 11 in the series Let's Face the Facts, the Director of Public Information has the honor to present to the Canadian people the world premiere of the radio adaptation of a great play. The name of the play is There Shall Be No Night. Its stage version is a current Broadway success. The author is Robert Emmett Sherwood, whose notable address in this series you heard on August 25th. Mr. Sherwood himself has written the radio adaptation of tonight's play. The central characters will be portrayed tonight by Mr. Alfred Lunt and Miss Lynn Fontanne, two of the most distinguished artists of the English-speaking stage. They are co-starring in the Broadway production. Assisting them this evening will be a supporting cast drawn from their Broadway company. Until tonight, Mr. Sherwood has declined many flattering offers to allow this play of his to be performed on the air. For the people of Canada, not only has he prepared tonight's production without charge, but Mr. Lunt, Miss Fontanne, and the fine cast supporting them are giving their services. Early in November, Mr. Lunt and Miss Fontanne will appear in the stage version of this play in Ottawa and Toronto. During their Canadian visit, they will devote their share of the money which the play will earn in the Dominion toward the building of a Spitfire. Mr. Sherwood intends to do the same with all his royalties from Canadian performances. Ladies and gentlemen, the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation and the Director of Public Information have the honor to present There Shall Be No Night by Robert Sherwood and starring Alfred Lunt and Lynn Fontanne. The first voice you hear will be that of Mr. Lunt.
Mr. Sherwood's play, There Shall Be No Night, is about a war. The war between Finland and Soviet Russia, which was fought last winter. When the play begins, the threat of war is still far away. The very thought that war may come is unthinkable. The scene is in the home of Dr. Carlo Valkonen in Helsinki, in Finland. Dr. Valkonen is a neurologist who has won the Nobel Prize for his studies of the human brain. His wife, Miranda, is an American, a New Englander. They have a son, Eric, 19 years old. They have a lovely, quiet, civilized home. They are very happy. They are at peace. Dr. Valkonen is devoted to his work, which he hopes and believes may be of benefit to the whole human race. Miranda Valkonen is devoted to her house and her family. Eric Valkonen is devoted to his own studies and his volunteer military training, and to his young sweetheart named Katri. The story of There Shall Be No Night is the story of the human spirit, the free spirit, assailed by the brutal aggression of the makers of war. Naturally, we can bring you but a few random scenes from the play in the half hour that the Canadian Broadcasting Company has so kindly given us tonight, but we are deeply grateful for this opportunity.
The first scene that you will hear is in the living room of the Valkonen house on an evening late in November 1939. On that day, the Red Army has started the invasion of Finland. Helsinki has been savagely bombed and many civilians killed. The Valkonen's son, Erik, has gone to the north to fight for the volunteer ski troops. Dr. Valkonen has been warned by a friend, the German consul general, to leave Finland, leave Europe at once, before it is too late. The German consul knows that this Soviet-Finnish war is only one phase of Hitler's vast scheme for world revolution. Dr. Valkonen refuses to go. He must abandon his own experiments and join the Army Medical Corps to do what he can for his suffering country. But he is determined to do anything and everything to persuade his wife to leave Finland. And now, a scene from There Shall Be No Night, with Mr. Alfred Lunt as Dr. Carlo Valkonen and Miss Lynn Fontaine as his wife, Miranda.
Carlo,
Yes?
I've made some coffee. I had to make it myself because the cook has gone. Will you have some, Carlo?
No, thank you. I want to talk to you, Miranda.
Why? Do you want to talk about Erik?
No, I don't want to talk about Erik. Miranda, I have to tell you that the time has come when you must go home.
Home? This is my home.
No, I mean to your own country, to America.
Why?
Because I do not wish you to stay here. Mr. Walsh at the American legation can make all the necessary arrangements. You go to Boston and stay with your aunt.
You're not going with me?
Naturally not. I'm needed here. You will stay in America until this business is over.
And when it is over, what then?
Why, then you'll come back and we'll go right on living as we always have. I might even go to America to fetch you.
And supposing you're killed?
Killed. I'm a doctor.
Do you think a Russian in a bombing plane 10,000 feet up can tell the difference between an ordinary person and a winner of the Nobel Prize?
No, it's out of the question that I should go. Freud left Vienna after the Nazi occupation. He went to London, where he was welcomed and honored, but he couldn't speak. He knew that if he told the truth, it would be printed, and that his own people still living in Austria would be made to suffer for it horribly. So Freud was technically free, but he was silenced. What did he then have to live for? Nothing. And so he died. No, I'll not leave. You must go alone.
And if I left, what would I have to live for?
Oh, you will manage very well in your own great, secure, distant country.
Why, Carlo, what is the truth of this? Why do you want me to go?
What can you do here? This is a war for the defense of Finland. And all of us know what he must do or she must do, and we have been trained to do it. Now, what have you been trained for except to wear lovely clothes and be a charming hostess? You are an intelligent woman, Miranda. Reason this out, and you will see that at a time like this, everyone who eats bread must have work to earn it. And God help us, there is only one kind of work that matters now. Resistance. Desperate resistance.
You think it's impossible for me to contribute anything, then? To help in any way?
Why do I have to tell you what you know yourself? This is nothing you should be ashamed of. This is not your country. This is not your war.
The country of my husband and my son?
Do you think that I and Erik want you caught here in these ruins?
Don't speak for Erik. I don't think he'd be particularly happy or proud to think his mother scurried to safety at the first sound of a shot fired.
Erik has American blood in his veins. He'll understand.
So that's it. His American blood will tell him it's perfectly reasonable for me to run away. Hush. You evidently share Carter's opinion of me.
Please don't put words into my mouth I haven't uttered.
Well, then why don't you come out and say what you mean? I'm incompetent, a parasite, a non-essential. In all the years we've been together, nothing has happened before to disturb the lovely serenity of our home. And now comes this great calamity, and you suddenly realize you don't want me, you don't need me any longer.
I didn't say that.
What did you say then?
You don't understand why I want you to go.
Maybe I don't understand. But one thing I do know, and you may as well know it too. I'm not going. Probably you don't need me. You have important work to do, and I'm sure that's enough for you. But the time may come when Erik will need me, and when that time comes, I intend to be here.
Please, don't keep on bringing Erik into this. Wasn't it enough seeing him go away like that in that uniform? That poor, hopeful, defenseless boy.
Oh.
No, I'm sorry, darling. I'm sorry. You must see that I've been making a desperate attempt to drive you to safety with lies. Well, it's no use. You always can make me tell the truth. The real trouble is you've had too much confidence in me. How could you know that I have been living in a dream, a beautiful, wishful dream, in which you played your own unsubstantial but exciting part? And now there is war, and our own son has to fight.
Carlo, don't.
And I wake up to discover that reality itself is a hideous nightmare.
What has happened, Carlo?
I
what have you
suddenly
heard?
realize where I am and what I am. I am a man working in the apparent security of a laboratory. I am working on a theory so tentative that it may take hundreds of years of research and generations of workers to prove it. I am trying to defeat insanity, the degeneration of the human race. And then a band of pyromaniacs enters the building in which I work. And that building is the world, the whole planet, not just Finland. They set fire to it. What can I do? Until that fire is put out, there can be no peace, no freedom from fear, no hope of progress for mankind. And it isn't just us, not just this one little breed that wants to be free. This is a war for everybody. Yes, even for the scientists who thought themselves immune behind their test tubes. Darling, I think I can stand this ordeal if I know it is for myself alone. Yes, I can stand it. If I know that you are safe and beyond their reach. You see, I love you. And that is the only reality left to me.
I can stand it too, darling. Whatever it is. I can stand it so long as I know that you love me, that you need me, that I'm essential. Even if I'm a woman who's nothing but a woman. Even at a time like this when the whole life of the world is marching with men.
I'm sorry, friend. I hadn't intended to talk like that.
Why shouldn't you talk to me? You always have. Nothing has changed, my darling. Nothing. Now come and have some coffee. Hmm? Oh, dear. It's not very warm.
Oh, that's all right. It's all right.
The Soviet-Finnish war goes on for 1 month, 2 months. The heroic resistance of Little Finland thrills the world. But the Russians are pouring in more and more troops in overwhelming numbers. Dr. Valkonen finds that he must leave his own important work and put on a uniform. He goes to Viipuri, behind the Mannerheim line, as an officer of the Army Medical Corps. The next scene that you will hear is in the little hotel room in Helsinki. It is the room of an American broadcaster, Dave Corwin, played by Mr. Richard Wharf. Dave has come to Finland to report the war over the radio to America. He has become a great friend of the Valkonens.
Come in. Mrs. Valkonen.
Hello, Dave. I hope I'm not disturbing you. Mr. Schumann told me I might come up. I met him in the lobby.
Why, of course, Mrs. Valkonen. I must apologize for the mess here. Would you like anything to drink?
No, thank you, Dave. I've come to ask for some help.
Anything that I can do.
I want to get my daughter-in-law, Katri, out of this country. She's going to have a baby.
Can you persuade her to go?
I couldn't have as long as Eric was alive.
Oh, I'm terribly sorry.
I know you're sorry, Dave. Katri and I were with him in the hospital when he died. Poor Katri. She's very ill. I've made all arrangements to get her to Norway and then to New York, but she must leave right away. I need some American money, Dave. Could you lend me $50? It'll be paid back.
Will that be enough?
Oh, plenty. Here's the address of my aunt in Boston. When you get to America, write her and tell her where to send the money. You see, Finnish money is worth very little now in foreign exchange, and by the time Carter gets to New York, it may be completely worthless. That's why I had to have dollars. Now, if this is inconvenient, Dave, say so, because I can surely get it elsewhere.
It's perfectly convenient. I'm very much flattered that you came to me.
Thank you. We had the most awful time persuading Carter to leave. We never could have if she hadn't been too ill to resist. She's a very strong girl, really. But, oh, Dave, there are limits.
I wish you were going with her.
I wish I were. I'd love to be present at the birth of my grandchild. Poor Cartry. She'll have a bad time of it there all alone. I don't imagine my relatives will be much help. Oh, well, perhaps she'll have a son, and he'll grow up to be a nice, respectable New Englander and go to Harvard and wonder why he has an odd name like Valkonen. You know, Dave, Eric wasn't badly wounded. He could easily have pulled through if he hadn't been in such a state of terrible exhaustion. It was lucky we found out where he was and got to him.
I sent word to Carlo. I don't know where he is. Somewhere around Viipuri, I think. There's terrible fighting at Viipuri, isn't there, Dave?
Yes.
They're getting closer, aren't they?
Yes.
Well, I'm very grateful for that loan. Come and see Uncle Valdemar and me. We're always there.
Thank you, Mrs. Balkan, and I wish to God you'd really let me do something.
Oh, Dave, you've done a lot. That $50.
Well, it's not much satisfaction to know that $50 is the best I can do.
It's all I wanted. All I could use. I had to get her out of this country. It means one little link with the future. Gives us an illusion of survival. And perhaps it isn't just an illusion. Well, goodbye, Dave.
Goodbye, Mrs. Balkan.
The next scene is in a little country schoolhouse near Viipuri Bay. The Russians are breaking through the Mannerheim line. The characters in this scene, Sergeant Gosden, an English volunteer in the Finnish Army, played by Mr. Claude Horton, two American ambulance drivers, played by Mr. Thomas Gomez and Mr. William Lamasina, and an American aviator, played by Mr. Charles Ansley. The little schoolhouse where they have taken refuge is within sound and range of the Russian guns.
Who are you? Friends. We're not Russians and we're not armed.
Glad to see you. Sorry, but I'm a bit jumpy these days.
Oh, that's all right, pal.
Americans, eh?
That's right. What are you, English?
Yes. The name's Gosden. I don't rightly know what my rank is in this army, but I call myself Sergeant.
Glad to know you, Sergeant. My name's Ben Gitchner. This is Frank Olmsted.
I'm glad to know you.
It's a pleasure to have your company. I was getting the wind up all alone here. You chaps in the medical corps?
Yes, we're ambulance drivers, only we've lost our ambulance. It's frozen stiff as a goat in a snowdrift. When the Russians occupy this territory, they'll come into possession of a Buick.
How far are the Russians from here?
I wish I knew. Nice little schoolhouse, this, eh?
How long have you been in this war?
I joined up in London just after Christmas. My wife and two kiddies were sent to Cornwall in the evacuation. Then I lost my job. I was working in the furniture department at Harrods. And who wants to buy furniture in wartime? I couldn't join up with our own army. Too old. All I could do was walk the streets looking at nothing. There was no news to read in the papers except about heroic little Finland. So I thought, why not have a go at heroic little Finland? And here I am. Where I should be tomorrow, I really couldn't say. Who's that?
Oh, it's all right. It's Dr. Volkanen.
How do you do?
How do you do, sir?
I gather that things here are a bit disorganized.
And no wonder, sir. It's a miracle there's any sign of an army left the way they've been pushing us.
Do you think there's a chance we'll get out of here alive?
If you're asking me for the truth, I'll have to say no, I don't.
Well, I asked only out of idle curiosity.
You know, the children must have left this school very quickly, right in the middle of an arithmetic lesson. Children were probably delighted.
How old would the kids be at a school like this, Doctor?
Oh, from 7 to 12, I should judge. It's just a little country school. I wish you could see it when the children are here. The boys on that side, the girls there. When the teacher comes in, the boys all rise and bow stiffly. The girls make their little curtsies. Maybe in their hearts they loathe the teacher, but they are always very polite. And all full of moral preachments. Oh, yes. You see that inscription around the walls? That's from the Kalevala. That is the epic poem of Finland. It had its beginnings in the songs of our minstrels 1,000 years ago. Your poet Longfellow knew the Kalevala and used its rhythm for high water. Let us clasp our hands together. Let us interlock our fingers. Let us sing a cheerful measure. Let us use our best endeavors while our dear ones hearken to us and our loved ones are instructed. While the young are standing round us of the rising generation, let them learn the words of magic and recall our songs and legends. Oh, yes, all Finnish children learn about the Kalevala just as all Americans learn those words about life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Dr. Volkanen.
Yes, Frank?
I wanted to ask you a question.
Yes?
About your book.
Have you been carrying that around with you?
Yes, I bought it in Viipuri when we first went there.
Frank is more worried about your book, Doctor, than he is about the Russians.
There's a lot of it I don't understand, but what I wanted to ask you about mostly is the very end.
Well, what is at the very end? Read it to me.
How long, O Lord, before we shall hear the sound of the seventh angel of the apocalypse? Have you forgotten the promise of St. John? And they shall see his face, and his name shall be in their foreheads. And there shall be no night there, and they need no candle, neither light of the sun. For the Lord giveth them light, and they shall reign forever and ever. How long, O Lord, before we shall be given to see the true revelation? Why did you conclude a scientific work with biblical words? And what do you mean by a true revelation?
It is the revealing to us of ourselves, of what we are and what we may be. Of course, we can all use the book of Revelation to substantiate our own theories. It is an eternally effective device. But there is something profound in those words I quoted. The unknown Jewish mystic who wrote that somehow unconsciously knew that man would find the true name of God in his own forehead, in the mysteries of his own mind. And there shall be no night there. You see, that's the basis of all the work I've done.
How do you feel about that work now, Dr. Vulcan?
Oh, I think I've learned a great deal in the last few months. Research in the field, I never dreamed I'd have such a vast laboratory or so many specimens.
Have you arrived at any new conclusions, Doctor?
No new conclusions, I'm afraid, just somewhat stronger suspicions. It is very wonderful to see what men are capable of. What courage, what endurance, what an utter lack of selfishness. And what a tragedy it is that all these heroic qualities can only be tested by disease. For that's what this is, you know, disease. All of this reasonless war, this aimless revolution. It is a psychological epidemic. We had seen it coming for a long time, long before 1914, but we had no conception of its extent. And now the very belief of men that they can insulate themselves against it is in itself a sign of lunacy. The germs of that disease travel on the airwaves. The only defenses are still here, behind the forehead. I want to apologize for carrying on a conversation which must be extremely boring to you.
Doctor, I'm an ignorant man, sir. I haven't read this book. Didn't even know I was in the presence of anyone who'd written a book. But from what you've said, I have a feeling it's all hopeless. I shouldn't like to die believing that.
Then you won't die believing it's hopeless. That's the point, my friend. You have lived in faith. The light is in you, and it is that light which gives the strength that defeats death. It is only the fearful, the unbelieving, those who have sold themselves to the murderers and the liars. Those are the only ones who will really die.
But how can you deny that the light is going out? It's going fast everywhere.
It is just beginning to burn with a healthy flame. I know this because I have seen it. I have seen it in all kinds of men, of all races, of all varieties of faith. They are coming to consciousness. Look at the millions of men under arms today, and look at all those who are fearful that arms will be thrust upon them. Are there any illusions of glory among any of them? None whatsoever. Well, isn't that progress?
Far be it from me to argue, Doctor, but I can't see what difference it makes whether men go to war because of illusions of glory or just in a spirit of grim resignation.
No, but there is all the difference. Because those illusions, when shattered, leave men hollow. They say, oh, what's the use? What have we got to live for? They are devitalized by a conviction of futility. But grim resignation, as you call it, that makes a man say, this is an evil job, but I have to do it. And when a man says that, he is already beginning to ask, but why do I have to do it? Why must this evil go on forever? And when men start asking questions, they are not satisfied until they find the answers. That is consciousness. And for the first time in history, consciousness is not the privilege of a few secluded philosophers. It is free for all. For the first time, individual man is fighting to know himself. Oh, forgive me, gentlemen, I forget myself. I think I'm still lecturing at the Medical Institute, but the Russians are only 1 kilometer away, and this may be my last lecture, so... Oh, please let me finish. Listen. What you hear now, this terrible sound that fills the earth, is the death rattle. One may say easily and dramatically that it is the death rattle of civilization. I choose to believe differently. I believe it is the long-deferred death rattle of the primordial beast. We can conquer bestiality, not with our muscles and our swords, but with the power of the light that is in our minds. What a thrilling challenge this is to all science. to play its part in the ultimate triumph of evolution, to help speed the day when man shall become genuinely human, instead of that synthetic creature, half bogus angel, half actual brute that he has always imagined himself to be in the dark past. Is that an aeroplane?
No, that's a motorbike. A dispatch rider, I expect, sir. Maybe it's orders.
Hello, Ben. Hello, Frank.
Joe.
Hello, Dr.
Where did you
Faulkner.
drop from?
I saw Major Rakoski up the road. He said you were in here.
Mr. Burnett, I'm delighted to see you. Are you flying in his front now?
I was. Up until a half hour ago, I was shot down. It was the first time that ever happened to me. I just managed to make a landing behind our lines. I got a motorcycle, and I'm going back to headquarters to see if they have any more planes.
Have you been in Helsinki lately, Joe?
Yeah, I was there a few days ago. I saw Dave Corwin.
I hope you called at my house, Mr. Burnett. Did you see my wife?
No, I didn't. I don't quite know how to say this, Dr. Valkonen, although God knows I've said it plenty of times before. But I want you to know you have my sympathy.
Your sympathy? Why have I got your sympathy?
You don't know about your son?
No. He's dead.
Yes, sir.
Killed in action.
I believe he died in the hospital of wounds.
When was this?
I don't quite know, sir. I heard it only from Dave. He'd seen Mrs. Valkonen.
Is my wife well?
Oh, yes, Doctor. She told Dave that she'd been with your son in the hospital. Your son's wife has gone to America. I didn't know, Doctor, that I should be the bearer of this news.
I should like, sir, to be permitted to put in my word of sympathy, too.
And mine also, Doctor.
Wouldn't you like us to get out of here, Doctor?
No. No, thank you. I have been expecting that news for a long time. I was prepared for it. My son had a good character. Part Finnish, part American. He was not afraid. And now, if there's still time, I must write a letter to my wife. If you'll excuse me.
The final scene is again in the Valkonen home. Miranda has received Carlo's letter and the news that he was killed in the fierce fighting around Viipuri. Dave Corwin comes to see her.
I've come to say goodbye, Mrs. Valkonen. I've been ordered home.
Oh, I'm sorry you're going, Dave.
So am I. But I'll never forget you or Dr. Valkonen.
You'll have a great book to write, won't you, Dave? Your own personal history.
Well, I'm afraid it'll be too much for me.
I'd love to read it. Oh, Dave, when you get back to America, will you do me another favor?
Of course, Mrs. Valkonen.
I have a package here that I want you to take, and the letter that Carlo wrote in the little schoolhouse just before he was killed. The package contains photographs of Pavlov, Freud, Carell, the Mayos, all of them signed, you know. Carlo was very proud of those photographs. There's also the Nobel Gold Medal. I want you to take the package and the letter and deliver them to Cartwright to keep for her child. You have that address in Boston. The aunt who's going to pay you the $50 I borrowed?
Yes, I have the address.
Carlo had just heard about Eric when he wrote this. He wanted to comfort me in his curious way. Do you mind if I read it to you, Dave?
Please do.
In this time of our own grief, it's not easy to summon up the philosophy which has been formed from long study of the suffering of others. But I must do it, and you must help me. You see, Dave, he wanted to make me feel that I'm stronger and wiser. I have often read the words which Pericles spoke over the bodies of the dead in the dark hour when the light of Athenian democracy was being extinguished by the Spartans. He told the mourning people that he could not give them any of the old words which tell how fair and noble it is to die in battle. Those empty words were old even then, 24 centuries ago. But he urged them to find revival in the memory of the commonwealth which they together had achieved. And he promised them that the story of their commonwealth would never die, but would live on far away, woven into the fabric of other men's lives. I believe that these words can be said now of our own dead and our own Commonwealth. I have always believed in the mystic truth of the resurrection. The great leaders of the mind and the spirit, Socrates, Christ, Lincoln, were all done to death that the full measure of their contribution to human experience might never be lost. Now the death of our son is only a fragment in the death of our country, but Eric and the others who give their lives are also giving to mankind a symbol, a little symbol to be sure, but a clear one of man's unconquerable aspiration to dignity and freedom and purity in the sight of God. When I made that radio speech, you remember? I quoted from St. Paul. I repeat those words to you now, darling. We glory in tribulation, knowing that tribulation worketh patience, and patience experience, and experience hope. There are men here from all different countries, fine men, those Americans who were at our house on New Year's Day. They're all here. They're waiting for me now. So I must close with all my love. There it is, Dave. Take good care of it.
I shall, Mrs. Balkin. But it may be a long time before I can deliver it.
It'll be a long time before my grandchild learns to read. Goodbye, Dave. Oh, my, we shall miss you. Why, you've become quite a part of our life here in Helsinki.
Goodbye, Mrs. Balkin.
And now, before this program comes to an end, Mr. Lunt has a final message for you.
I cannot possibly tell you what a great privilege it has been for us to read these lines from Mr. Sherwood's play, knowing that they could be heard by you brave and noble people who today are defending the cause of human freedom, human dignity on this earth. We who have had the honor of speaking to you tonight are actors, and therefore like to believe the assurance of William Shakespeare that all the world's of stage and all the men and women merely players. If that is true, then we can say with deepest conviction that never in all the great drama of history has any race of men and women enacted so heroic a role as you of the British Empire today. We, at the moment, are only your audience. We beg to say thank you, and God bless you.
You have been listening to number 11 in the series Let's Face the Facts. Tonight you heard the world radio premiere of the current Broadway success, There Shall Be No Night. The radio adaptation was written by the author of the stage play, Robert Emmett Sherwood, and the principal roles were performed by two of the most distinguished artists of the English-speaking stage, Alfred Lunt and Lynn Fontanne. They were supported by a cast drawn from their Broadway production. Copies of tonight's play will not be available to the public. If you have written for printed copies of talks given in this series and have not been receiving them, will you please renew your request? But print your name and address plainly. Illegible writing has prevented the Director of Public Information from fulfilling many requests. All requests should be sent to the Director of Public Information, Ottawa. Let's Face the Facts will be heard again next Sunday night at 9:30 o'clock Eastern Daylight Time or 8:30 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. The speaker will be Mr. Lawrence Hunt. This is the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation.
We'll be right back with more of these great old-time radio classics. Welcome back to the best of the old-time radio classics, and I'm your host every week at this time, Jerry Hendigas. Well, you've all heard of the hideous Nazi extermination of, quote, lesser races, unquote, and diabolical experiments to produce the master race. Well, one of these experiments was performed on young Polish children, in which the children were kidnapped and had their blood replaced with Nordic blood. Now, the object was to make Germans out of these Polish children. Once finished, the children were then issued to German foster parents. Now, this is the story of one such child. From March 3rd, 1949, here is 11 Memory Street and The Fountain of Life.
Mutual has canceled its regularly scheduled programs for the next 55 minutes in order that we may bring you the following special transcribed documentary broadcast.
Listen. This is Janina.
Nocnej ciszy głosiem rozchodzi. Stańcie, pasterze, Bóg się wam rodzi. Czym prędzej się wybieraj do Betlejem.
Gertrude Kabaniek, 14. Kazimierz Siechecki, 7. Stefan Jagielski, 16. Janina Sulinska, 10.
Janina Sulinska, 10. That's a little girl's name, a real girl. Remember that name, Janina Sulinska, because that child is who this story is about. And her story is called 11 Memory Street.
The Mutual Network, in cooperation with United Nations Radio, presents 11 Memory Street, an actuality program written and narrated by Alan Sloan, with original music by Lana Domian.
This is Alan Sloan. Not long ago, the United Nations sent me overseas to report on children, how they lived in post-war Europe. On that assignment, I came across a fragment of a story in occupied Germany, a name and an address. This is the story behind that name, Janina Sulinska, and that address in Poland, Pamiątkowa ulica 11. The story as it happened, based on official documents of the International Refugee Organization of the United Nations and secret records of the Nazi SS. It all started when a mother sat down in Poznan, Poland, to write a letter. This is what she wrote.
Ja, Maria Sulińska, jestem polską matką. Zabrano mi dziecko moje.
My name is Maria Sulińska. I'm Polish mother, and I'm asking you to help me find my little daughter, Janina Sulińska. I last saw her in 1939. When the Germans took her away.
The Germans took her daughter Janina away from her, she writes. But why write a letter now? What can anybody do now? Well, she had written to the Polish Red Cross, and they knew where to send the letter, where to start looking for 10-year-old Janina Sulinska.
International Tracing Service, Child Search Branch, Esslingen.
International Tracing Service, Child Search Branch, Esslingen, Germany. The biggest missing persons bureau in the world. That's why I was there. The United Nations runs it. For instance, say you're a Czech, lucky enough to survive concentration camp. You want to know what happened to your father, your wife, your child. International Tracing Service, known as ITS, can tell you, because they have the Nazi records. The Nazis, you see, were very methodical. They kept records. I saw those records. File upon file of what ITS calls death books. Really, the actual entry books of Dachau, Belsen, Auschwitz. Whenever the Nazis deported a trainload of children, they made a list.
Olaf, 17. William Delgo, 6. Anna Glausova, 14. Deported from Ligice. Antonin Kozel.
Oh, they love to make lists, the Nazis. Ship a town full of Jews to the furnaces? A list. Shoot a regiment of Yugoslav partisans? A list. Force the men of a French village into slavery? A list.
Madame Émile Jean-Pierre, husband, a political deportee, died on the 20th of November 1944 at Dachau, Germany. Madame Lahaye Fernand.
Thousands of lists, millions of names, most of them dead. They've got lists of children, too, found by UN people in DP camps, in orphanages, foster homes, waiting for their parents to be found. And there are lists of children parents are looking for, like Janina's mother. Well, the trick at ITS is to match the request with the list. So first thing they did when they got Mrs. Solinska's letter was to look for Janina's name. The bureau chief, her name was Sheila Collins, checked with the fellow in charge of the master list. She was an English girl, and he was a Dane named Toivo.
Toivo, there's a new inquiry here from Poland. Would you see if you've got anything on it?
Oh, let me see. What's the spelling?
Sulinska, Janina.
What?
Sulinska.
SCISEBSKSU. Subel, Subotic, Sukachova, Janina. What's what?
No,
Janina?
no.
Sulinska, Janina. Sulik, Johanna. Sulinska, Jadwiga. Is there Jadwiga here? Oh, that's Janina. Suliciano, Suliak. Well, that's all I have. I don't think we have this one here.
No Janina Solinska on the master list. I wondered what they do next.
What was that Johanna? German name, Johanna.
Oh, Johanna. Sulik it was. Just a moment, Sulik, yes. Johanna, born 14th, 938.
4938, where?
Yeah. It doesn't say that here.
Say.
But
Poznan.
Poznan. That's Mrs. Solinska's hometown. And according to her letter, Janina was also born 14938. What now?
Get the Lebensborn list, quick, will you?
Lebensborn list. Lebensborn. I was going to ask what it meant and why they got so interested in Johanna Sulig when they were looking for Janina Solinska. But just then Sheila's assistant came back with the Lebensborn list.
You got it?
yes.
You know, the Germans did change these names, and they usually kept some of the syllables the same. S-U-L, S-U-L, S-U-L-I, Janina, Johanna, Janina, Johanna. It could be.
Could be, yeah.
I was beginning to get the idea. These kids didn't just disappear. They were seized, kidnapped, and their names were changed, Germanicized, and then they were turned over to Nazi foster parents. So the International Tracing Service keeps lists of German children who might be from anywhere. Thousands of them. The Nazis must have loved children. They stole so many of them. The problem was how to find the children. Sometimes they did with just a similarity of name.
You remember that Stiglevska and Stiglitz?
Yeah, sure.
Then there was Vitka, Vikovska.
Fine. But would Johanna Sulig turn out to be Janina Solinska? It was tough, because all they had to go on was this list. List number... I remember it was list I-916. When things like that happen right before your eyes, you remember. Names, birth dates, addresses. Sheila went on checking.
Sulig Johanna.
Right.
Born
That's it, huh?
14938. Schmidt Heinrich.
Heinrich Schmidt, listed as the foster father. That's a clue. But where was he?
Prague 1. Oh, she's in Prague. It's difficult.
Difficult. It sure is. Finding a supposed Polish girl under a supposed German name when the last record says she and her foster father are in Prague. But ITS keeps checking,
I wonder if
so...
we wrote to Prague when we were checking through that list. Yes, we did write to Prague. Both of them, they haven't answered yet. Better write again, quick.
And off goes an urgent letter to Prague. 1 original, 3 carbons, copy to file. Right there, something began to dawn on me. This was the United Nations really at work. A British bureau chief working with a Danish assistant to find a Polish child who might be in Czechoslovakia, and an American reporter standing by. Miss Collins called in another assistant, a Czech, and between them they started the detective work for which ITS is famous.
Heinrich Schmidt. It's a German name.
I'm pretty sure he won't be definitely in Prague anymore.
Well, let's try the German search service. There are millions of Heinrich Schmidts, but how many from Prague?
Yeah, Heinrich Schmidt is going to be a Nazi needle in a German haystack. Must be some other way to get a line on him besides writing letters.
We'll also broadcast. For Heinrich Schmidt, who used to live in Prague, we won't say why we want him. That will put him on his guard. No, I think just ask for him quite quietly. I think that's all we can do now. No, we haven't got very much from Poland, from the mother. Let's write to Poland and ask the mother to send us a little bit more about the child.
They'll never find this kid. They haven't even found her foster father yet. Looked impossible to me, but not to Sheila.
It does look hopeful. It has all the marks of one of those Lebensborn cases. I'm sure it's a Lebensborn.
That word again, Lebensborn. Lebensborn. I knew enough German to figure out the meaning. Leben, life, born, fountain, fountain of life. Now, it didn't register, it didn't click. So while they got the case of Janina Solinska in the works, I dug into the files on my own. And this is what I found out about Lebensborn. It all started with something somebody once said.
I'm a convinced supporter of the idea that what matters in the world ultimately is only good blood. The only good blood, according to our reading of history, is a leading creative element in every state, and in particular, the blood engaged in military activity, and above all, Nordic blood.
That's a quote from the late German bestseller, Mein Kampf, author Adolf Schicklgruber, pen name Hitler. On that, the National Socialist state built its careful, cruel policy of genocide, race extermination. Now, you've heard about it before, the concentration camps, the whole terrible story. But here at ITS, I learned the most terrible thing of all. None of it just happened. It was planned. Just as in the USA there's a Justice Department to root out crime, the Thousand-Year Reich had a special department to commit it. It was called Russia, Department of Race and Settlement. It was manned by civil servants. It had offices, rules, salaries, stationery, uniforms, letterheads. And in Russia, a branch called Lebensborn, Fountain of Life. Now, why Fountain of Life? Because the duty of this particular branch was not to exterminate races by killing people, but by stealing their children, taking them to Germany, placing them in good Nazi homes with forged birth certificates proving they were really Germans. Some fountain. Now, at the very time I was at ITS in Esslingen, over at Nuremberg, they were trying the race and settlement gang for the crime of genocide. And at ITS, Sheila Collins of the UN opened the files to me. First, the Hitler quote, then others that trace the Nazi master plan for mass murder. Here, from the files, is Technique 1, extermination.
This one is about Lidice, in case you have forgotten Lidice. Secret, 12th June 1942. Important, handle immediately. The community Liditz, located in the Protectorate Bohemia-Moravia, was raised today upon orders from highest headquarters in connection with the assassination of SS General Heydrich. The male population was shot. The women were taken to a concentration camp where they will remain for the rest of their lives. The children were examined as to their racial desirability. Those who are not racially desirable will pass to you, so that they can be sent on to further destinations. 90 children are involved. They are unaccompanied. They will be sent to Litzmannstadt in a special car which will be attached to a regular train. The train will arrive at Litzmannstadt on Saturday, 13th June 42, at 21:30 o'clock. Care should be taken that the children will be called for at the station and immediately assigned to camps. The children will bring no belongings apart from the clothes they wear. Special care is not necessary.
Meaning, let them die. So much for extermination. Technique 1. Technique 2, expulsion. Get this.
To Mr. Joseph Schwakow, Schonanger, number 6. Subject, expulsion. Because of your German descent, you were given 3 months' notice to join the German community. As you did not take this opportunity, you and your Polish wife will be expelled from Schonanger. You and your Polish wife will be forbidden to enter Schonanger after the 4th July 1942. Should this restriction be exceeded by you after above date, you will be taken to a concentration camp. Your children under 21, I have taken to a social welfare installation.
Here's another document from the files about that installation.
Here is a record of children admitted to Hospital X, Ljubljana. Children registered, 235. Children transferred, 4. Children nobody knows what happened to them, 6. Children treated, 225. Children died, 221.
The most terrible words I've ever heard are those 4. Nobody knows what happened. That's one of the things the International Tracing Service is trying to find out. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. But it didn't just happen. It was planned. Like, for instance...
One of the basic problems is the question of education. The non-German population of the East should have no schooling beyond 4 years elementary school. This elementary school should have the following objectives: the teaching of simple calculating, up to 500 at the most, writing of the pupil's own name, the doctrine that it is a divine commandment to obey the Germans and to be honest, diligent, and well-behaved.
Like, for instance, stormtroopers.
I do not see any necessity for reading.
You may be wondering whose twisted brain cooked up this recipe for making slaves. You'll see.
After these measures have been applied for a period of 10 years, the remaining population will be composed of inferior elements, a leaderless people of laborers, and will provide Germany with migratory workers and laborers for special projects, roads, stone quarries, and monuments. It will work under the strict, principled, and just direction of the German nation. It will participate in the German nation's eternal cultural achievements and monuments. In fact, it will make these possible by providing the bulk of the manual labor. Signed,
Here's your boy.
H. Himmler, 15/5/1940.
Well, that's Lebensborn, a whole department of the German government to do one small thing, steal one small girl from her mother. And now it was taking the United Nations to find her, and if humanly possible, give her back. But Janina wasn't the only child they were looking for. There were hundreds.
French.
Thousands.
17. Italian, 4. Czechs, 237. Bulgarian, 11. Russian, 76.
As the search requests come in, UN people keep tally on an abacus. You know, one of those little wire frameworks with wooden beads on it that you see in kindergartens. And every day they click off new totals.
Total, 1,419 children.
Day after day, month in, month out, lists of children come in. Name after name, child after child.
Rita Bayona, 11. Fiorella Bondi, 9. Orina Belleli, 7. Vittorio Benjamin, 12. The little finger of the right hand is missing.
So is the little child missing. Sometimes little details like that are all the searcher has to go on. Little things the mothers remember, like this woman.
J'ai vu pour la dernière fois le 14 septembre 1943 ma fille qui avait alors 5 ans et demi. Elle a le visage ovale, les yeux bleus, les cheveux bleus.
My daughter was then 5 years and a half. She has an oval face, blue eyes, blonde hair, which she probably wears in braids around her head.
Anybody seen a little blonde girl with braids in Germany? Swell chance of finding her. or any of these stolen French kids.
7. Dugirolian, 12. Suzanne Boyer, 6. Paul Béguet, 8. André Garde, 12.
But where was Janina? Well, the International Tracing Service was in action in the field. Searchers were tracking Heinrich Schmidt. Reports began to come in.
I asked the neighbors, and they told me that there had once lived a family Schmidt, but they had moved away. But they knew that the mother had a child, approximately the same age as this Polish Janina Solinsky.
Fine, but where had her Schmidt moved to? Where had he taken Johanna Sulig? And was Johanna Sulig Janina Sulinska? Another precinct is heard from.
Subject, Janina Sulinska, born 4938, Poznan, Polish. 1. Reference is made to your letter dated 10 February 1948. 2. We regret very much to inform you that we were not able to locate the above mentioned.
No,
Not
Janina.
registered in
Then another precinct checks in.
To U.S. Zone Child Search Officer ITS. Subject Janina Sulinska, born in Poznan. Investigations were made in Aschaffenburg, but the girl was not and had never been registered with them. No trace could be found.
Janina stayed lost. I kept coming back time and again for news, but no news, except that they'd heard from Janina's mother again. Poor Mrs. Solinska got kind of mixed up. She thought Janina had already been found, and she wrote her a letter, care of the UN.
Kochana córeczko, bardzo się ucieszyłam, jak dostałam wiadomość, że ty żyjesz i do mnie wrócisz. Tyle lat o tobie myślałam. Gdzie ty jesteś i gdzie cię nie zawieźli.
That you are alive
Janinko,
and that you will return to me. For so many years, I was thinking of you, where you are and where they have sent you. Janina, do you remember when the Germans took you away from your mother? And how very much I was crying when I came to see you. Janina, those tears were tears of pain. But today I cry because I'm happy that you are alive and will return to me. Janina, now we are not living at the Drivnovskaya Street, where the bakery was, and where you were often sitting on the divan because you
But ITS spotted one thing in the letter that counted, one clue. Janina used to ride on a bakery van. When they find her, they can ask her about that and show her some pictures her mother has sent. The question is, Sheila, will she remember?
She'd remember a little. She'd remember what her house looked like, if it was a farm, or if they had animals, or if she had brothers and sisters.
If they find Janina. Always that if. Well, they kept checking and writing and searching. The whole UN Missing Persons Bureau was on the case. Finally, a solid clue came in on Heinrich Schmidt. Weeks had gone by since they wrote to Prague, but at last...
We finally received the answer from Prague.
Yes?
Heinrich Schmidt was definitely living in Prague.
Yes.
He was an SS major there in the police.
Uh-huh.
And there was a child with him.
Yes?
And this child is Johanna Sulik.
Sulik.
Janina
Could be.
Sulinska.
Could be.
Well, the birth date coincides. I think there can't be any doubt about it. If you want to have the particulars of the letter, here they
Yes.
are. And they also give his present location.
That looks good. Child looks the same. We've got the exact address. Now we can begin working on it. It gives it, yes, Holzhausen, Radhausstrasse 1.
Oh, fine. If Heinrich Schmidt is like John Smith in America or England, Holzhausen in Germany is like, well, Centerville or Knight's Cross. And Radhausstrasse is Main Street or High Street.
Well, I'm afraid we'll have to find out which Holzhausen it is.
Yes, get them all busy on it. Establish exactly which one it is. Then we'll go and have them interviewed. But that makes it pretty definite. SS Major, just the kind of person they turn over, those children. Mm-hmm. That looks good.
Good news. Johanna is beginning to look more and more as though she might be Janina. Next thing to do is stick the bloodhounds on the trail of Heinrich Schmidt, ex of the SS. And, speaking of Heinrich Schmidt...
There doesn't seem to be any question whatever that he was a Nazi. And a fairly prominent one, too. Just one more indication that it's probably a Lebensborn case.
So the pieces begin to fall together. And a few days later, Sheila comes up with another piece for the puzzle.
This is interesting. You'll be interested in this. Oliver brought it me this morning. Came in consignment of material from war crimes.
Over in Nuremberg, that is, where they had the master criminals of the Lebensborn on trial at that very moment.
And it carries on with this story, oddly enough. I'll just read you the translation. Dear Mr. Schmidt, your foster child, Johanna, born 14938, is to receive a birth certificate.
What? Johanna?
Johanna
Yeah.
Schmidt, and she's to receive a birth certificate, and the birth date is the same.
Proving, you see, that the Lebensborn wanted to hide the identity of Johanna with a phony birth certificate. But they left the birth date the same. Very clever. Go on, Sheila.
Please determine what name you would like to have the birth certificate issued for. Eligible, either the child's original name, Sulik.
Which it wasn't, because the name Johanna Sulik turned up on Lebensborn list I-916. Children whose names had been Germanicized from something else.
In order to avoid on her part any recollection of the past connected with the original name, it is possible to give to the child a neutral name. Your early decision will be appreciated. Friendly greetings, Heil Hitler, signed Dr. Tesch.
Oh, that's from the legal Lebensborn office where they issued all these forged documents.
Oh, yes, it came from Munich.
Well, that's it.
Why? Why is that it? Because now we know definitely Johanna Sulik is a Lebensborn child. And the Lebensborn children were not Germans, but foreign children, kidnapped, transported, renamed, and transplanted into the best of Nazi soil. So off they go after Heinrich Schmidt.
Who do you suggest to put in charge of the case?
I think Miss Torkelson. She's good on that sort of thing. She looks well. If he's an SS, well, she's blonde and Nordic-looking, and she's tactful in her handling.
Ho-ho. You have to use tact with the SS.
Yes, I think we'll put her onto it.
So Ingrid Torkelson, a blonde, Brunhilde-type bloodhound, hits the trail of Heinrich Schmidt. All she has to do is knock on the door, tell Johanna, honey, you're Polish. Tell Papa Schmidt, Pop, we're taking this child, and whammo, case closed. Oh, sure. Torkelson goes out, and Torkelson comes back. And what's her report?
Well, unfortunately, it's inconclusive.
Oh.
The man seems to be some kind of tough. Not that he treated her some wrong way, but I mean, it was very hard to get something out of him.
Yes?
He at first maintained the child was his own.
Well, he would. But what about Johanna? Did Miss Torkelson actually speak to the child?
Well, you see, there was such a lot of resistance in the family.
Yeah?
So she left it hoping that we might get some additional information, and I think here it is.
Now, Torkelson had checked around Schmidt's neighborhood, and a tactful Nordic-type blonde can learn a lot, especially in a Germany that still has a habit of informing. Guess what she came up with?
That man, before he came to Prague, was in one of the most notorious concentration camps.
Schmidt? In a concentration camp? Doing what?
Running the administration.
Running the administration? And still on the loose?
It's one of these odd cases where these people are still running around.
Mm-hmm.
And haven't been put in jail.
What do we do now?
Well, I think the next thing is to interview the child.
Well,
she can give us something, I think, next. See
Well,
about having her interviewed, will you?
Yeah.
Johanna's next. She just has to be Janina. Or does she? What have we got to go on? Change of name, same birth date, a Lebensborn record that she was a foster child, little things, a letter from a Maria Solinska back in Poland, sort of an awkward letter. Well, while they went off after Johanna, I asked Sheila Collins about all these little scraps of paper the tracing people keep pushing around. File cards, lists, letters translated into awkward English.
We get used to awkward English. Awkward English doesn't mean anything. It's what there is behind the awkward English that means something. No, all these pieces of paper, they're pieces of paper, but we guard them. We guard them very carefully that they stay in the right place, that nothing gets astray, because if they do, then there may be delay in the children going home. And that's our main object, is to send them all back, all home where they belong.
Dinah Ozolnieks, 13. Maya Flamanis, 14. Edward Freimanis, 9. Benita Ozolnieks.
And the lists keep coming in. Children, children, children. How does it feel, Sheila Collins? Don't you have bad dreams?
No, I don't dream much at night. I used to when I first started working here. Nightmares, because you read so much. You saw so many terrible stories, concentration camp stories, children removed, dreadful things that happened. But after a time, you get hardened up to a point. You don't dream of it at night. You only think of it in the daytime, and you dream of what you can do. You forget the horrors and you look for the details that are necessary for your work. Everybody becomes hardened to a certain extent.
You have to get hardened, working with things like this. Another scrap of paper from the files, entitled
Data of the Methods of Treating Mentally Handicapped Children at Department B of the Child Nursing Home at the Psychiatric Establishment in Lubliniec.
That is, Lublin. Go ahead.
Significantly handicapped children, epileptics, cripples, used to be given products containing barbiturates, chiefly luminol, in large doses daily without regard to age.
Around ITS, when certain names come up, they're called luminol children. Very few come up.
In Department B, some children for weeks and months used to get great doses of luminol, and in spite of that, continue living. The weaker used to die after a short time, sometimes even after a few days. At the beginning, all the children, after having taken luminol, vomited. Some got accustomed, sometimes they staggered, were dazed, but used to eat well, used to run and play. After some time, they began to get high fever. They ceased to eat, snored, foam used to come out of their mouths, sometimes bloody, and at last they died.
And why did they die? Because a popular German author once wrote,
I'm a convinced supporter of the idea that what matters in the world ultimately is only good blood, and in particular, the blood engaged in military activity, and above all, Nordic blood. So said Adolf Hitler.
In the period from August 1942 to November 1944, of the children treated in Department B, 94% died.
You are listening to 11 Memory Street, transcribed and presented by the Mutual Network in cooperation with United Nations Radio. We pause briefly now for station identification. This is the Mutual Broadcasting System.
You're listening to the best of the old-time radio classics, and I'm your host, Jerry Hendigas. And now let's get back to 11 Memory Street.
I talked a lot with Sheila Collins. I wanted to know how these people feel who work for children they've never even seen. Just a lot of little cards, just a lot of names.
For help. First name unknown. 15 years. Miklos Halash.
Yes, and many people think it's very boring. It is boring. It's very boring to check sometimes 300 names against a card index in one day and do nothing else. Sometimes you begin to feel careless. You say, oh, this card isn't here. And you're tempted to say you've checked it.
And a mother somewhere waits for just one word about her child.
And then you think, no, I must look more thoroughly. Maybe there's another spelling to this name. Maybe the Germans transcribed the Polish name differently. I'll try these other two possibilities. And you do try. And maybe by trying you will find that card.
But Sheila, it's only a card. You really don't know the child.
Even children that one doesn't know here, you can't help getting to like some of them. You can almost see them sometimes from their mother's letters. They describe them. Sometimes a mother writes and says, my little girl had grey eyes. She had a mole on the back of her hand. She had a broken front tooth. She had golden curls.
And back in Poland, a mother cries, Janina, Janina. Yeah, and every time I saw a little German child, I wondered where it might really have come from. I hung around Esslingen to see what the UN searcher would say when he came back from Johanna's house. He did, finally. Armed with the snapshot Janina's mother had sent, he tried to see Johanna. How did he make out with her Schmidt? Well, Schmidt began by repeating his story, said Johanna was his own child. And then he switched.
He just said he adopted the child, so I said I would like to see the child.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he said, it will disturb the child. I said, well, I'm sorry if I have to disturb the child because you don't tell me the truth. And the child will tell me the truth, I'm sure about that.
And what did Herr Schmidt say to that?
She doesn't remember.
What did you say?
Leave it to me. I'll see what she remembers and what she doesn't.
Uh-huh. Did you get to see her?
Well, then I told Mr. Schmidt, very bluntly, leave us alone. And then I thought the best thing might be not to interview the child in the room, because then Mr. Schmidt could still listen at the door, and the child would be still afraid.
Yes.
So I just went with the child to have a garden around the house, and the garden, and we played a bit, and she became quite confident.
Mm-hmm.
And then I explained to her that she might have some relatives somewhere else. You are called Honey here. Is that your name?
Yeah.
And do you remember perhaps another name? Janina.
I don't remember.
You are not afraid of me?
No, I'm not afraid.
I am from the International Tracing Service, honey. You know, we are looking for people. And I've come to see you because we think we might have found some of your relatives in Poland.
Poland?
Yes, in Poland. But perhaps you could answer a few questions for me.
Yes, sir, if you ask me.
Well, do you remember where you have been before you came? Well, fortunately enough, we had a few details which her mother had told us about. But even that didn't fit in. Well, honey, I wonder. We have been looking for you for 2 years. And here are some pictures. Perhaps they will help you to remember. You see this woman, and you see she has a child, a girl in her arms. Doesn't this picture mean anything to you?
I don't know.
And look here, at the dog. Perhaps you had a dog at home.
I don't remember.
And look here, the house. Don't you remember the house? Don't you remember the name of the street you were living in? Pamiętkova ulica?
No.
So, I mean, the child didn't remember anything. Mm-hmm. I even showed her a picture of her together with her mother. You remember?
It meant nothing?
Just nothing. I mean, she reacted completely negatively. Mm-hmm. Then I would say, all right, but look at this girl here. Don't you think it could be you? No, nothing.
Oh, I don't remember anything.
Then I had the idea about recalling her Prague, because after all, in Prague she must have heard Czech. And this Czech, if she was Polish, must have sounded somehow familiar. Well, in Prague, you perhaps remember, people talked another language, a different language from German.
Yes, and I understood a few words.
You understood a few words? Can you explain? Had you heard that language before?
Yes, that I don't know. From where?
But perhaps you will remember some words in another language similar to Czech.
I only know a part of a prayer that has the same sound that Czech.
Can you tell me, perhaps, what you still remember of this prayer?
Yeah. Zdrowaś Mario, łaski pełna, Pan z Tobą.
And she started to tell me the very first words of the Holy Maria prayer. It's just amazing.
Is it her idea? Or did you suggest it, or it just
No,
came?
no. I mean, it just came, you know, when we were talking about a different language but German.
Święta Mario, Matko Boża, módl się za nami. And that's all.
Well, I think it's enough because it is really Polish. And I think so are you Polish. And wouldn't you like to go back to your mother?
I don't know.
Do you realize how much your mother is waiting for you?
No.
Well, think it over a bit. And if you want to write to your mother, do not hesitate, because we'll find somebody to translate your letter.
But I don't know what to write.
Anything you want, because your mother will be glad about anything you will write to her.
I'll try.
So I left her there, and I told her if she wanted to communicate with her mother. Well, at first she said she didn't know what to write her.
Poor child.
Well, definitely, it's hard for her. But I feel especially in this case, when we can reunite the child with her mother, I think it will work out pretty well.
Fine. I figured I could pick up my notes and go. Then the UN man added a warning.
But what I would like to suggest is, you see, the situation for the child might change now.
Change? Why? All they have to do is pick her up and send her back to mother.
Well, they might still try to influence the child, and I feel it might be quite harmful to the kid if she stays longer there.
Yes, we can't be sure how they'll treat her now.
Well,
Do you think they'll try and move her?
I couldn't give a clear-cut answer, but my impression is that no.
So while the searchers get their papers in order for AMG, they keep an eye on Herr Schmidt. But Johanna, or Janina now, comes through with something on her own. Now she writes.
Lieber Herr, ich danke Ihnen, dass Sie sind zu mir gekommen und mir den Brief von meiner Mutter gebracht haben und mich zu meiner Mutter...
You remember last time you asked me whether I thought we might run into troubles in this case. I mean, additional difficulties.
What, from the foster parents?
From the foster parents. They want to move the child.
Move her?
Yeah. Here's a letter from her.
Dass Sie mich zu Verwandten fortschicken wollen, damit Sie mich nicht fortkennen.
She's written to you personally.
And she says here, please come soon.
What?
Please come soon.
What's happening?
Yesterday I heard how my parents spoke. They will send me away to some relatives. Here you have it.
Until now, they have been very good to me, but now they changed and do not want to let me go to my real mammy. Please come soon. Don't tell my parents that I have written you this letter.
You see the old SS major?
Well, he's going to cause trouble all round. He's a first-class Nazi. He's also a very stupid man. He's going to give the case publicity, and here is a letter he's written to a newspaper in Munich. As a reader of your newspaper, I'm approaching you today with an urgent request, because I feel that you will be in a position to give me advice.
It brings the problem to be the attention of the authorities concerned. In October 1942, we applied at the adoption office in Munich for the adoption of a child, as our marriage had remained without children. This was the beginning of May 1944, when I was stationed as a major
with the German police in Prague.
Well, this is the first lie here. He was with the SS.
Oh, well, sounds better now, makes better public reading. Urgent duties did not permit me to accompany my wife, who returned 2 days later with
Johanna, who was supposed to be our foster child.
Just wonder what kind of urgent duties he had at that time.
We had been informed, furthermore, that the child's parents had been German, that there were no relatives to take care of the child,
and that medical examinations had proved that the child was healthy and racially valuable. Racially valuable.
That sounds good, huh?
And the good Herr Schmidt goes on trying the case in the papers, bitterly complaining about the United Nations. Finally, he demands proof of Janina's parentage, winding up in typical SS style.
The necessary proof could only be conducted through documents, physical signs, pictures, confrontation of mother and child, and last not least, through a medical examination concerning the racial origin.
Did you hear that? Physical signs, racial examination. They never learn. Schmidt is still infected by the Nazi virus. Only he forgot something.
He didn't say Heil Hitler at the end this time.
Well, you can just imagine it.
There's no change in him from his old SS days. Fine home for a Polish child.
Well, what do we do about it? Leave it at that?
Leave it? No, we're not going to leave it. We're taking it up right away. With military government, and then maybe Mr. Schmidt will get what he deserves.
Accordingly, the child will be removed.
Will, that is, in the Army sense, meaning definitely. And that was that. Now, I'd followed the case from the mother's first letter through all the red tape, and there was just one thing more to learn. What happened when Janina got home? Well, I couldn't go back with her to Poland, of course, but the UN searcher who found her did, and he had a story to tell about their trip. He called it Janina's Big Adventure.
It was Janina's big adventure. You know, new cities, towns, different people, and so forth. Well, she didn't stop asking questions. Well, and then all of a sudden, she became a bit more serious. She realized she couldn't talk to her mother.
Well, naturally, she didn't know any Polish except the Ave Maria. So on the trip, he rehearsed her in a little speech. Well, Mother, here you have your daughter back again. Over and over again, the little speech. Here you have your daughter back again. All across Germany, mile after mile across the map, all day, all night, until the Polish border. Poland at last. Now, what did the border guards do when they saw Janina?
Well, they gave the child an extremely touching welcome.
Yeah?
The guards took her in their arms, and, well, Janina realized what they meant, even if she didn't understand. Some of these people were so tired they had tears in their eyes. And they were old guys, believe me or not. Well, it got late in the evening. Janina got restless. She began to ask, how many more hours?
Janina began to ask questions. What would her mother be like? She began to talk to her doll, asking the doll questions, till the doll became Janina, and Janina the mother. Where have you been, Janina? Why did you stay away so long? I don't know. But here you have your daughter back again, Mommy. That's good. Are you hungry? So it went, all the way across Poland until finally Poznan, home, Pomiankowa ulica 11.
At the moment we pulled up, a woman comes out of the house. She stopped, and Janina saw that woman, stopping and looking at the car. And all of a sudden, she just hurried to get out of the car and went towards that woman. She said, "Are you my mommy?" And she talked German, of course. But the woman realized it was Janina, and she took her in her arms. The driver and I, we just stood. And now it was a turn for us to have the tears in our eyes. The mother hardly could utter a word. And Janina, she had all forgotten.
Forgotten the little speech she'd made up for her mommy. Didn't matter, though.
In the meantime, a lot of people had gathered. I think all Pomiankowa Street was around. The people in the crowd also realized that this was Mrs. Sulinska's daughter, for whom she had been waiting for so many years to come back. People calling her Janina, Janina.
Janina Sulinska was home. The United Nations had given her back. What next? Well...
Then, when I had to leave, the mother took Janina in her arms, and guess what she did? She just put her into my arms, and Janina put her arms around my neck and kissed me on both cheeks and wished me a good trip. And
why did the mother put her back into your arms?
Oh, well, I never thought about it, but I think it was a gesture of gratitude.
What did you say?
I told them it was just nothing.
Just nothing. Happens every day. A mother writes a letter asking if the United Nations can find her child. Scores of people check thousands of documents, hundreds of clues, dig up one Heinrich Schmidt out of millions, prevent him from spiriting the child away again. Officials act, governments move, the child is returned. Just nothing. Honest now, how did you really feel?
You know I'm single, hard-boiled bachelor. But at that point, I was nearly feeling as if Janina was nearly my own child, I would say.
They all feel like that. The good people who look for children who aren't their own, but who belong to somebody, somewhere.
There's just one thing I want to know. Do you think Janina will be happy in her own home now she's back again?
How about that? Will she be happy?
Yes, she will be happy.
You sure?
Definitely. I'm so glad I went on that trip. Because if there had been any doubt before in my mind as to whether what we are doing was right, now I can tell everybody straight in his face, it is the right thing to do what we are doing.
I packed up all the documents they'd given me for this program, promised I'd do my best to tell their story, and then I realized the original phrase that caught my attention months ago, Pamiątkowa ulica 11, was still unexplained. However, the UN man had a PS to add.
We have been talking back and forth about Pamiątkowa ulica number 11.
Yes, what about it? It's her mother's home address.
Well, it's Janina's home now.
Yes?
And you know, Pamiątkowa ulica, this can be translated. It has a meaning in English.
Yes, I don't know Polish. What is it?
Well, it means 11 Memory Street.
11 Memory Street. Memory Street.
Memory Street. I'll never forget it. End of story. Except the story does not end with Janina. ITS is still there. Children are still lost. The International Tracing Service, the Sheilas, the Toivos, and the Torkelsons are still searching. For thousands upon thousands of children, the abacus still clicks.
Egon Sobotka, 16.
Ilma Kalve, 9.
Kirsten Peterson, 6.
Toivo Laneste, 11.
Janina Sulinska, 10. A case closed. Child and parents have been reunited.
Child and parents reunited by the Child Search Branch of International Tracing Service of the International Refugee Organization of the United Nations. Big title, isn't it? Do you know a bigger job?
The story of 11 Memory Street, as told by Alan Sloan, is true in every respect but Janina's last name. Her address, 11 Memory Street, was real. All the persons in this story were actual United Nations personnel in their actual jobs. This program is dedicated in love to the many children ITS has found and given back to their parents, in hope to the many children still lost, and in proud gratitude to the people of ITS and the United Nations. The Mutual Network has brought you transcribed 11 Memory Street, presented in association with the International Refugee Organization. The program was written and narrated by Alan Sloan, who recorded in Europe the voices you heard, assisted by Eloise Sloan. The original music was composed and conducted by Lana Domian. 11 Memory Street was produced and directed by Gerald Keane of United Nations Radio. This is the Mutual Broadcasting System.
Well, that'll just about wrap things up for today. Certainly hope you enjoyed the programs. And this is Jerry Hendigas saying thanks a lot for listening. Take care of yourselves, and we'll see you right here next week. Same time, same station. Bye now. Hi, this is Jerry Hendigas inviting you to join me as once again we relive those great old radio classics. Welcome once again to the best of old-time radio classics. Well, this week we continue on with a look at landmark dates in the month of January. And today we have a couple of dandies. But before we get into the program, I want to once again thank my good friend Bob Ludeman, researcher and historian extraordinaire, who supplies me with much of the excellent historical details you hear in these programs. Well, these days we are used to hearing breaking news on both radio and television. In fact, sometimes it gets a little nauseating, doesn't it? Yet in 1935, people still relied mostly on morning and evening editions of newspapers for those "this just in" occurrences. An indication that this would change happened on January 16th of 1935 with the escape of 4 convicts from California's San Quentin Penitentiary. Calling All Cars producer, director, and head writer William N. Robeson was assigned to put together a 15-minute docudrama for national broadcast. How it was assembled, even when all the facts seemed not apparent, and got on the air in what was a record for that time, 2.5 hours after the break itself, was the subject of a 1936 Columbia Workshop episode in which William N. Robeson went into detail of how the docudrama was produced. Now, we'll be listening to that program a little later on. 1 week after the prison break, Calling All Cars presented an expansion of that original docudrama and delved more deeply into the lives of the convicts. These 2 programs would be the launching pad of Robeson's work for CBS, starting with Columbia Workshop, and then continuing on with such excellent programs as Escape, CBS Radio Workshop, and Suspense during its last years in Hollywood. From January 22, 1936, here is the 61st episode of Calling All Cars, with William N. Robeson's production of The San Quentin Prison Break.
Calling All Cars, a presentation of the Rio Grande Oil Company.
Calling all cars, attention all cars, attention all Marin County Sheriff's cars. Broadcast 61. 4 convicts just escaped from San Quentin Prison using a state car. License Diamond E 6154. Diamond E 6154. The convicts are reported headed north. All cars use discretion and hold fire if possible, as the escaped convicts have kidnapped 4 members of the prison board and are carrying them as hostages. Stand by for further orders.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, it is with great pleasure that we bring you the complete radio dramatization of the San Quentin Prison Break, which occurred last Wednesday. This afternoon in San Francisco, Clyde Stevens, confessed bank robber and accomplice in the prison break, pled guilty to 3 counts of robbery with a gun and was sentenced to a term of from 7 years to life on each count. It is believed that as we go on the air with the dramatization of his story, he is already en route to Folsom Prison. It is with pride that we remind you that Calling All Cars has brought you the story of Burma White as she was leaving for Tehachapi Prison. The Mae West jewel robbery, the day one of the robbers was apprehended in Miami, Florida. The story of the crime career of John Dillinger, 72 hours after his execution in Chicago. And the Gettle kidnapping case, 48 hours after Mr. Gettle's release. But it is with greater pride that we remind you that William N. Robeson, author and producer of Calling All Cars, dramatized the San Quentin Prison Break over the Columbia Don Lee Network a half hour after the capture of the escaped convicts, scooping every newspaper in the world. 4 hours later, Mr. Robeson wrote and produced another last-minute radio station of the week's biggest story to the entire nation over the Columbia Coast to Coast Network. This, we believe, marks a milestone in radio broadcasting. And the Rio Grande Oil Company wishes publicly to thank the writer and producer of Calling All Cars, Bill Robeson, who consistently, for over a year, has served the radio public of the West police news while it was still sizzling hot. We now take you to San Francisco, where you will hear from the man who led the posse which captured the escaped San Quentin convicts at Valley Ford. It is our great pleasure to present from the studios of KFRC in San Francisco, District Attorney Albert Bagshaw of Moran County.
Good evening. Last Wednesday afternoon, I spent the most exciting 2 hours of my life. I've hardly returned to normal yet. I'd gone to Tamales with Under Sheriff Plum to prosecute a petty case. We were following the routine of our duties when a telephone call from San Rafael plunged us into a melodrama as wild and exciting as any Nick Carter story you have ever read. That is the story you're about to hear on tonight's Calling All Cars. Before we go into this dramatization, which I know you are all eager to hear, I would like to point out to you a very serious condition which has existed for some time and which the prison break of last week has brought into the spotlight of public notice. I refer to the overcrowded condition of California prisons. Built to accommodate 3,294 inmates, the San Quentin prison is now jam-packed with over 5,747 convicts. The result is a seething unrest among the prisoners. The rise in crime during the past years has been responsible for this overcrowding. Critics have pointed out that our parole system is lax. This may be so, but the brutal fact is that the parole board has to release many prisoners in order to make room for those coming up from the courts. So long as paroles are easy to obtain, crime will flourish. Our police forces in California do a splendid job, but the prison situation which causes the evil causes them to repeat over and over again the same work. Recidivists, habitual criminals, should be put away for good, but we in California, unfortunately, have no place to put them. We must have another prison. When we can adequately care for the criminal for as long as he is sentenced, he will show less desire to repeat his acts. As it is now, men like Clyde Stevens do not wait a week after they're released to start robbing banks again. This must be stopped. We have efficient police. They do their duty, and having done it, are forced to do it all over again. It is not only our faulty parole system which is to blame, but it is also our faulty prison system. May last Wednesday's deplorable incident served to arouse the people of California to demand the proper check against the rising tide of crime. Thank you and good night.
Look here, boys, can't you listen to reason? You've got my watch, my money, my car. What else do you want?
You ain't got enough dough on you.
I can't help that. I've given you everything. Won't you let me out?
Sure, that's not a bad idea. Sure, we'll let you out, eh, Eddie?
Sure thing. And there's a little souvenir to remember us by.
Open the door, Eddie. Red light him.
Throw me out. Slow down, please.
What for? We're in a hurry.
Go on, scram guy. There.
Gee, I never knew a guy would bounce like that when he hit the road.
Such was the crime that in 1931 sent Joe Christie, graduate of 6 prison terms in the Middle West, to San Quentin Penitentiary for from 1 to 25 years.
Order. The attorney for the defense has the floor.
Your Honor, my client has decided to make a confession and save the court valuable time.
Very well. Will the defendant take the stand?
Well, you see, Judge, it was this way. I pulled these jobs, but I wasn't alone. The coppers think they ain't got nothing on Lillian. But she's hot, Judge. She spotted the joints for me. Guess we must have knocked over 25 stores. Lillian's just as guilty as I am. If you send me up, you ought to send her up, too.
And you call yourself a man. You get this girl into trouble like this, and then you try to save your skin by turning state's evidence against her. Well, it isn't going to help. You'll serve time, all right. There is no place in society for a skunk and a rat like you.
With the stigma of skunk and rat attached to him, Alexander McKay entered San Quentin in the summer of 1931 to serve from 5 years to life for robbery.
All right, you mugs. Back up against that soda fountain and don't pull any funny stuff. Clean that cash register, Ben.
Okay.
Where you going, sailor?
Nowhere. I was just turning around.
Well, stay put. I said stay put.
No, you plugged him, Fred.
I meant to. Come on, scram.
For robbery, grand larceny, and assault with intent to commit murder, Fred Landers was sent to San Quentin 3 years ago to serve 2 terms of from 5 years to life.
Now, look here, Straight. We're wasting a lot of time. I know you held up that bank on College Avenue, and whether you want to confess or not, I'm going to send you up.
You can't keep me in the big house.
Well, that won't be my job, but I'm going to send you up there. So you might as well make my job easier by confessing.
What'll you do for me?
You can't make a deal with me. You rob that bank, and you'll do time.
Okay, I pulled that job. But I'll make a little bet that I'll be out of stir before they make you chief for getting this confession.
Rudolph Straight, confessed bank robber, and veteran jailbird, tried twice to make good his boast. Once he sawed through the bars of his cell. Another time he was caught working the bolts of his cell door with the bent wrench. He was thrown into solitary. Returned once more to his cell, he strikes up an acquaintance with Clyde Stevens, another bank robber, in the prison yard.
You look like a tough guy to me, Straight.
I am.
You want to get out of this joint, huh?
Don't you?
Sure. I'm getting out, too.
How come?
I got dragged. The parole board will hand me my walking papers next time it meets.
Yeah?
Sure. They gave me a 5 to life rap.
And you're getting out after 3 years?
Sure. Parole's a cinch in this state.
Well, I ain't going to wait for no parole.
That's the way I figured you. And I got a plan.
Yeah, what is it?
As soon as I get out, I'll fix it so I can get some gats into you.
You will? That's all I need. Give me a good gat and I'll walk right out of here.
Okay. I'll get you the gats. You get a couple more guys you can depend on.
Yeah.
We join up as soon as you make the break. By that time, I'll have some joints cased. Why, son, we'll make that Dillinger mob look sick.
It's okay with me.
All right. Now stop this monkeying around with files and bent wrenches. Stay out of solitary, and you'll be at the business end of a 45 in no time.
On October 31st last year, Stevens was paroled. And within 2 months, he is wanted by San Francisco authorities for bank robbery. Although the police are unable to find the man, he manages to keep in contact with his prison pal, Rudolph Straight. One day, a fortnight ago, in the prison carpenter's shop.
Hey, Alec.
Yeah?
There's that prison truck again.
Yeah, what about it?
That's the truck that goes in and out of the walls. Stephen hid the gats in it. They're under the dash. They've been there for 2 weeks, and I ain't had a chance to get them out.
That driver's liable to find them.
That's what I'm afraid of. Now, listen. Watch that guy. And if you got a chance, glom those rods and hide him somewhere.
Yeah, where?
That cake of nails will be okay. Now, look. There goes the driver now. He's walking toward the office. I'll keep my eyes on him, and you grab those gats.
Okay.
Get him okay?
Sure, I got him.
All right, stash him in that keg.
Yeah.
That's fine. Now we'll roll this keg behind this workbench where nobody can see it.
Hey, there's just you and Joe Christie and me in this deal, ain't there?
That's right.
Well, Steve said it's 4 gats.
Yeah? Well, in that case, we better make it a quartet.
Hey, who do you want to cut in?
How about Landers over there?
Yeah, he's okay. He can take it.
I'll talk to him. Hey, Fred.
Yeah, Rudy?
Come here.
What do you want?
Act like you was giving me a hand. I want to ask you something.
What is it? Look here, Landers. You got a 45 in your hands. You take on the lamb out of this joint? What are you doing, trying to kid me?
No, we're on the level.
Hey, you bird. Separate. Get back to work. What do you think this is, a tea party?
I'll tell you about it later, Fred. Beat it.
Early last Wednesday morning, the inmates of the prison file into the washroom. Straight signals to Christie, Landers, and McKay. Cautiously, they move over toward him and engage in guarded conversation.
Come on, get your face dry and get over there.
What's up, Rudy?
I asked you the other day if you'd be willing to blaze out of here with a 45.
Yeah.
Well, today's the day.
I thought you was fooling.
I'm on the level. How about you, boys?
I'm all set. Anytime you are ready. What makes you set on today?
The prison board's meeting with the warden this morning. None of these flat-footed guards want any trouble while the big shots are here.
Maybe they'll get some whether they want it or not, eh, Rudy?
That way we get so close to it, I've been kind of thinking, see? Suppose it don't work. Suppose we get plugged or something.
You ain't yellow, are you, McKay?
Of course I ain't yellow.
You better not be. You're in this too deep now to back out.
I don't want to back out. I was just thinking
Go
of
it. This ain't no chin fest. We got to work fast.
What do we do for gas?
It's all taken care of. You ain't got nothing to do but come along and do what you're told.
We got some 45 stashed away.
That's swell.
Who's that?
Oh, one of the cons. Fresh fish, I think. I don't know him.
You think you heard anything?
No, he wouldn't be making a noise if he was spying on us.
You can never tell about stools.
Now, look. The board's meeting in the warden's office, see?
Yeah, so what?
I've been tipped off that they'll go over to the warden's house for lunch, see?
No. What's that got to do with us?
If I knew how dumb you were, I wouldn't have cut you in. Now, get this. We drive up in the old Ford like we were doing our work. But all the time, we got the 45s in our belt, see?
Yes. Then what?
So we go in and we snatch the warden and the prison board.
What? You're nuts.
No, I ain't. We snatch the warden and the prison board. They'll come in handy. Cops won't shoot so fast when they know we've got big shots in tow.
Mackerel. The warden and the prison board.
They've been handing out and turning down paroles all morning. I'd like to see how it feels to be the guy on the carpet. And for once, we'll be the big shots. Kind of a funny idea, don't you think?
It's okay if it works, Rudy.
Listen to me, you guys. You stick with me and do this job the way I planned it, and we'll all be out of this joint in less than 4 hours.
A few minutes before noon, Joseph Stevens, Frank Sykes, Warren Atherton, Charles Cox, and Mark Noon, members of the State Prison Board, take a recess from their morning meeting and join Warden Holohan at luncheon at his home within the prison walls. The pleasant, sun-filled room gives no indication of the impending danger that lies just outside those curtained French windows, where 8 hard eyes are watching every movement, 8 keen ears hearing every word.
Well, Warden, you're to be congratulated on the splendid work you're doing, especially in view of your limitations here.
Thank you, Mr. Sykes. I can assure you that no one knows better than I the necessity for relieving congestion here in prison. We have almost twice as many prisoners as the institution was built for, and the result is unrest among the men. But it can't be helped.
I presume you feel as though you were living on the edge of a volcano all the time.
Well, something like that. You see, gentlemen, the granting of early paroles is by no means the answer to our problem.
You're quite right, Warden. The only answer is the erection of another prison.
Pardon me, but there seems to be somebody at the door.
Take him out, Dan. One.
What's the meaning of
We
this?
mean business, Warden. Up with him.
Look here. You can't come in here like this.
Oh, yeah? I've been wanting to do this for a long time, Warden.
Oh!
All right, Rudy, cut it out. Cut out the rough stuff.
I don't like that guy.
Okay, snap out of it. We didn't come here to bump the warden off.
Just what did you come here for?
We're going to get out of this place, and we're going to take you with us.
What for?
You'll make good bulletproof vests.
Don't you realize there's a law against kidnapping in California? You can be executed for this.
Yeah, well, we're the law, and if there's any executing to be done, we'll do it.
Now, look here. If you boys are on the square and promise there won't be any shooting, I'll go with you as hostage. But please remember, I'm the father of 4 children.
I guess we'd better take all of you. Then we'll be sure. Now, you guys take off your clothes.
Why?
We're going to need them. Come on, let's have your coats and vests. You can wear our uniforms.
No, but listen.
Come on, talk over. Well, except you. You're too fat. None of us can wear your coat.
That's a consolation.
But you can do something else for us. You call the prison gate and tell them to send the warden's car over and that we're coming through the gate and have it open.
Oh, but listen.
Go on, there's the phone.
Well, all right. Let me have the west gate, please. Hello. This is Mark Noon speaking. Send the warden's car over to the house, please. Yes, that's right.
Tell them you're all coming through.
The whole board will be coming out in a minute, so have the gate open, please.
That's right. Well, you birds look like a swell assortment of cons. And we look just about as respectable as you did when you had these clothes on, I guess.
Come on, Rudy, let's get going.
Don't get excited, Joe. Okay, gentlemen, here's the car. Out through the side door here.
What about the warden?
We'll have to leave him. He'll come through sooner or later. Alec, you talk to those guards. All right, gentlemen, make it snappy.
Drop those rifles. What's the devil? Let them shoot these men.
Okay, gentlemen, pile in the back. You there, stay at the wheel. You're driving us. This other guard, you stand on the running board. Come on, boys, make it snappy.
Look here, man. You'll never get away with this.
Get in! This is my party. That's fine. Okay, boys, let's go. Kick that siren open and drive straight to the west gate.
San Francisco Police calling all cars. Attention all cars. Watch for Studebaker sedan. License Diamond E6154. 4 convicts escaped from
Mercury Police emergency call. All cars attention. All cars attention. A prison break. Hamilton Field calling all bombing planes. Calling all bombing planes. Return to your field at once for further orders.
Officers from San Francisco, from Oakland, from Marin County close in on the territory surrounding San Quentin Penitentiary. Posses are hastily organized. The bombing squadron at Hamilton Field stands by for orders that will send them searching from the air. The safe teletype spins the log web across California, describing the escaped convicts, describing their fleeing car. A few miles out of San Rafael, the convict car turns right, heading for the Black Point cutoff. As they come in sight of the cutoff, the drawbridge swings open with exasperating slowness. They pull up with a burning screech of brakes.
Can you imagine it? We're practically out of the heat when that monkey has to start pulling switches.
What's the difference? Go back, Rudy.
You're telling me. Now we got to go back into all the cops in the world.
If you don't mind, shut up. I want to ask a question.
Let him talk. It'll make him feel good. Ain't you never heard of an emotional catharsis?
What's that, some kind of snow?
What's in your mind, Toots?
What I want to know is, how in the world did you get those guns?
That's a professional secret. And what you don't know won't hurt you.
Rudy, look.
What?
Cops ahead.
Get your gas out. Step in that siren mug and drive like hell. Yeah, just what I figured. They're afraid to shoot on account of our passengers. You boys are a great help to us. Now, look here, driver. What's your name, by the way?
Jones.
Oh, one of the Jones boys, huh? Well, listen, Jonesy. Just pull up a minute. I'm going to let your fat friend out here.
What?
Yeah, you're going to get out and you're going to tell that posse back there to call out the dogs, or we'll bump off your pals here. Give us a half hour and everything will be okay. Pull up, Jonesy. Get out. And don't forget that message. Get going, Jonesy.
Mark Noon, secretary of the prison board, immediately phones the prison of his whereabouts. With orders to hold fire as long as possible, the Army of the Law goes into action. From San Francisco, from Oakland, from Berkeley come officers. Quickly the peace forces are organized. And with police radio blaring last-minute flashes, a posse composed of hundreds of men in scores of police cars block every highway and byway in Petaluma and Marin counties. The posse closes in, combing the hilly north coast country. As the convict's car swoops into Hicks Valley's road, the posse sights them. The chase is on. Deputy sheriffs pull down their shotguns from the roofs of their high-powered police cars. State patrolmen crouch over their white motorcycles, unlimber their guns, fire and scream. 10 miles, 12 miles, 14 miles they roll west of Petaluma. The law holds its guns in readiness. The convicts, still out of range, apprehensively look backward. Then, when they're 18 miles away from Petaluma, the convict's car takes a turn too sharply. The car skids. The law is within range.
Duck road, you guys. Hey, Jonesy, keep the car on the road.
Can't help it. They shot off the rear tire.
What's the matter with you?
They got me in the leg.
Try to pick off that guy on the motorcycle, Joe. Come on, Jonesy, more speed.
I can't push back with the rear tire off.
Well, I can. Get out.
Don't throw me up, but just...
Push him out, Alex. I'll drive the damn thing.
No use, Rudy. They're gaining on us.
I can't get any more speed out of this thing than he did.
There's some buildings up ahead. Let's fight it out there.
Okay, I'll slow down. You guys jump. Come on, jump. He ain't it out, Billy.
Are you all right, Frank?
I think so.
I'll tell you,
Don't. For the love of God, Sheriff. That's Atherton. They made us change our clothes.
Where are the men? Ran into that building. Okay, men, surround the building.
Look out, back guys, behind you.
Hey, got him. Let him have it, boys. Hold your fire! We surrender! Then throw your guns out and come out with your hands in the air. Take them down, slap the handcuffs on them, Sheriff.
Yep.
And, boys, have you had a pleasant trip? What you do? Ready, Rudy? No, I got him before he got me. And now, unless there are any objections, suppose we return to San Quentin. There are some questions I'd like to ask you. Some very pertinent questions.
Rudolph Strait, the convict leader, dies on the way to the hospital. James Stevens and Frank Sykes, not dangerously wounded, are taken to the Petaluma Hospital, and Warden Holohan lies in a prison hospital, critically injured, as District Attorney Albert E. Bagshaw of Marin County begins his investigation of the prison break.
Boys, I'm not going to mince any words with you. Two California laws threaten all of you with death penalty.
One says the kidnapping is a capital crime. The other says that any life-timer involved in a prison disturbance in which bodily injury occurs is liable to be executed. The latter applies to at least two of you. Well, we know this is an outside job. You haven't a chance to beat the rap. I want to know where those guns come from.
Clyde Stevens sent them in to us.
Shut up, you rat. I never expected you'd spill, McKay. You haven't changed any since you took that girl to prison with you, have you? Clyde Stevens, eh? Know him, Captain?
Sure, I know him. He was paroled about 3 months ago, and we're looking for him for bank robbery. We had a trap set for him day before yesterday, and he knocked over a bank right under our noses. I got a line on his hideaway, and I was going up there this afternoon to knock him over when this thing happened.
You've got a double reason for a visit now.
I should say I have. And I'll have that boy in the can before midnight. I promise you that.
I wouldn't be too sure about that, you big flatfoot. That guy's a killer.
It is close to midnight. San Francisco Bay is shrouded in deep fog. Captain DeLay, at the head of a posse of 15 men, crosses the narrow strip of water between the mainland and Sherman Island in the delta of the Sacramento River. Cruising at half speed, the motorboat scarcely makes a sound. Quietly, they shunt into a little pier, scramble on the land.
That's his shack. Lights are still on. Take it easy. Surround the place, boys. And have your guns ready. All set? Set. Let's go then. Pick 'em up, Stevens.
What the devil? Hey, what's this all about?
Pick 'em up, Icehead. And your pal, too. What do you want us for? Running guns into San Quentin and a couple of bank robberies.
I don't know nothing about running guns or bank robberies either.
Oh? Well, we'll talk about that later. Slap the bracelets on him, Tom.
The officers return across the black waters of East Bay with their two captives, Clyde Stevens and Albert Kessel. They leave their boat at Antioch and walk through the deserted streets of the little town to their waiting police cars. Suddenly...
Look out, boys! Stevens got away! Halt! Stop or I'll fire!
That patrol. Down the corner.
I'm gonna fix that guy. What's the big idea, Mug?
You Dicks aren't going to take me in. You can bump me off first. Well, I don't think that'll be necessary. But if you don't come quietly, why... I guess we'll have to take you in this way. Come on, boys.
For 3 days, San Francisco police questioned Clyde Stevens, and finally on Saturday he confessed and explained how he had smuggled the guns into San Quentin, hidden in the prison truck. He was sentenced to from 7 years to life in Folsom Prison this afternoon. District Attorney Bagshaw is now preparing the prosecution which may possibly send Christie, McKay, and Landers to the gallows. And high state officials are studying a wide, sweeping prison reform, which will include revision of the present parole system, separation of habitual criminals from first offenders, creation of a unified state police system, and possibly the erection of another state penitentiary in Southern California.
All cars, attention all cars. Cancellation broadcast 61 regarding a prison break at San Quentin. Convicts are now returned to prison. That's all.
Calling All Cars is written and produced by William N. Robeson. This is your narrator, Frederick Lindsley, saying good night for the Rio Grande Oil Company.
You're listening to the best of old-time radio classics, and I'm your host, Jerry Hendigas. Well, the year following the San Quentin prison break, which was dramatized on the Calling All Cars episode you just heard, William N. Robeson produced another program for CBS. This time it was the CBS Radio Workshop, and this time Robeson dissected his January 16, 1935 docudrama and gave us insight to how it was done. The Columbia Workshop was well known for its innovative type programs, and this is no exception. From September 5, 1936, here is the 7th episode of the Columbia Workshop with the San Quentin broadcast.
Testing, 1, 2, 3, 4. Testing, 1, 2, 3, 4.
The Columbia Workshop.
Ladies and gentlemen, tonight the Columbia Workshop presents its 7th program of an experimental series dedicated to you and the magic of radio. In our opening broadcast, we promised that from time to time we would present dramatizations of some of the exciting moments behind the scenes in radio. Broadcasting has proved that one of its most important functions is to bring you news while the news is being made. Thus, on Wednesday of this past week, those of you who may have been listening to Columbia's ace commentator, H.V. Kaltenborn, heard for the first time in history the actual sounds of battle during the cannonading of the city of Ayarun in the Spanish Civil War. But sometimes, in spite of hazards and difficulties, it is impossible to have microphones on the spot when important news is breaking. On such occasions, quick attempts are made to reconstruct the story and dramatize it. Thus, 4 hours after the Supreme Court's Gold Clause decision, 10 hours after the burning of Nome, Alaska, 7 hours after the death of King George, comprehensive dramatic broadcasts went on the air. But to William N. Robeson, West Coast writer and producer, and the staff of Columbia's Los Angeles outlet, goes the credit for having established the record when on January 16th, 1935, the famous prison break at San Quentin was dramatized and put on the air 2.5 hours after the story broke. We're fortunate in having Mr. Robeson here with us. We have asked him to tell you and dramatize the story of the San Quentin broadcast. Mr. Robeson.
Thank you, Mr. King. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. For the past 3 years, I've been producing a program called Calling All Cars on the Pacific Coast. It consisted of dramatizations of police cases, and as a result, I developed a sort of sensitivity to crime news. We had established records for rapid dramatizations in the Dillinger and Gettle cases, but they toppled with a crash on the afternoon of January 16, 1935, when the first reports trickled in from an isolated sandy peninsula in the north where the San Quentin machine gun guarded walls glumly faced the storied towers of San Francisco. I was sitting at home in Hollywood working on a script, half conscious of the radio going in the background.
Have just played Smoke Gets in Your Eyes from the stage production Roberta. And now Gene Austin steps to the microphone. Stand by for a special news bulletin.
Turn that up a bit, darling.
What? Oh, all right.
4 convicts escaped from San Quentin Penitentiary a few moments ago. Severely beating Warden Holohan and escaping through the prison's heavily guarded walls in a prison automobile with 4 members of the prison parole board as hostages.
You hear that, Stuart?
How the convicts affect
Turn off that set, will you? I've got to make a call.
They are speeding through Marin County with the police.
You know what that means, don't you?
Yeah, you'll have to throw out next week's script and do this story.
That'll be a cinch. I can work one up in 6 days.
Dixon O'Donnell.
Hello, Miss Campbell.
Yeah?
This is Bill Robeson. Listen, save all the reports in that prison break for me, will you?
What prison break, Mr. Robeson?
You'll read all about it in tonight's papers. It just happened up in San Quentin.
Oh.
And tell Kim I'm pulling next week's show and substituting this story.
All right, anything else?
No, that's all. And don't forget to save those reports on the break.
Yes, I will.
Thanks a lot. Can you imagine that? Kidnapping a prison boy. Boy, what a show that'll be.
Well, how do you suppose they ever managed to break out?
No, your guess is as good as mine. You have to wait for the papers. Anything can happen in a prison as overcrowded as San Quentin.
Sounds like you're going to have an exciting week. Wait a minute, I'll get it. Hello? Yes. Oh, just a moment. I'll call him. It's Dick Wiley down at KHJ.
I wonder what he wants. Hello, Dick.
Hello, Bill.
What's on your mind?
Listen, Bill, a big news story just broke.
Yeah, I heard the flash a minute ago.
I want to put a dramatization of it on the air at 5:15. Can you write the script and do it?
5:15?
Yeah.
Why, it's 20 minutes past 3 now, Dick.
I know, but we have a gang of actors here. There's an orchestra available in 15 minutes. Sound boys are standing by. All we need now is a script. How about it?
Well, it sounds screwy to me, but I'll try. Wait a minute. When will the car be back there?
The garage said they'd send it back at 5.
Oh, that's a help. Hey, Dick, my car's being serviced. I have no way of getting down there.
I'll send a cab for you.
All right, I'll do it.
Okay.
Now, look, Dick.
Yeah.
Get the teletype to San Francisco open, and keep it open. We'll need all the assistance Holloway can give us up there. And then send a man down to the Times to cover their wire.
Uh-huh.
And have Jack Van Nostrand stand by. I'll need him.
Okay.
Get the cab on its way, and I'll start the script while I'm waiting. I got to work fast.
Work fast on what?
Didn't you just hear? I'm going on the air with the San Quentin break at 4:45. I've got to write the script.
Well, how can you? You've only got an hour and 20 minutes, and you don't even know what's happened.
Yeah, I know. Fastest I've been able to do it yet is 8 pages an hour, so I'll need
An hour and a half to do a 15-minute script.
But, Bill, I still insist you don't know what's happened there.
I heard the flash, and that's enough to get started on.
Oh, it sounds impossible.
Yeah, we'll see.
The cab arrived in about 12 minutes. I had 3 pages of the opening scene written based on the meager news flash. While the cab stopped for a red light on Sunset Boulevard, I bought a newspaper, but there wasn't a word about the prison break in it. We did 3 miles in a little better than 5 minutes. I wish I could get a sound effect like those screeching brakes made as we pulled up to the studio. An elevator was waiting to rush me to the second floor. 10 actors were waiting, an orchestra waiting, Dick Wiley waiting, everything waiting, but a script that wasn't written.
Here's Bill. Mr. Wiley, Wilson's here.
Hurry up, Bill. Hello, boys.
Okay, Bill. Okay, come on in the office here.
Sure, got any more dope?
Here's all the teletype flashes so far. I've got 2 girls on the wire to Heenan at the Times. They're taking the news flashes as they come in.
Okay, get someone to put a typewriter in here, will you?
Sure, I'll get it for
Where's
you.
Van Nostrand?
Oh, Van!
Here I am. Bill wants it.
What can I do for you, Bill? Look, here's 3 pages of the opening I wrote in the cab. Finish it, will you?
Sure, but what do you want in it?
Well, I don't know. Check the reports. I'll look through the rest of these messages. When you get that done, come right back and we'll have it copied on the duplicator.
Okay. Here's the typewriter, Bill. Anything else I can do to help?
No. Just leave me alone here for about 10 minutes until I go through these flashes and find out what happened.
But, Bill, it's 20 minutes to 4 now. We're on the air in an hour and 5
I know it, but I've got to get some idea of what I'm writing about.
All right, I'll get right out of here.
The race between the tapping of the typewriter keys and the ticking of the red second hand on the clock began. But that red second hand, the tyrant of radio, the implacable timekeeper of the network, swinging slowly, ruthlessly around the bland face of the studio clock, kept gaining. Conflicting reports, contradictory rumors, sheafs of messages, and each moment a new flash coming in describing the mad dash of the convict-laden car. An opening night excitement gripped the studio as they got their instructions word by word.
Hey, Lloyd! Lloyd, bring the sound truck in here.
Hey, Leslie! Hey, pipe down in the hall there. I'm trying to think.
Hey, Bill.
Yeah, how's this here? Oh, in a small way, but there aren't any machine guns in the script.
I see.
Here's the second scene, Mr. Robeson.
All right, drop it down there. Bill Goodwin. Bill Goodwin!
He's in the studio, Mr. Robeson.
Okay, I'll get him.
All right, boys, let him have it.
Cut. Hold it, please. Wait a minute, boys. Here's the second scene, Bill. A couple of guards, a warden, 4 members of the board. And don't forget one of those convicts is a Cockney. Now, sign these parts quickly, will you? I've got to get back to the typewriter.
Okay.
I'll be back.
What about team, Bill?
Oh, Fred, use anything you've got. Something big to open with. The robber mark from the Chu-Chin Chow.
But,
all right?
Bill, I got to check.
All right, boys. Here's your parts. Bob Fraser, you play the warden.
All right.
John Prince, you play Atherton. George, stick with us, boys. I'll be back in a minute with the next scene.
Hey, Bill. Do you want 4 or 8-cylinder cars?
Oh, get a kitty car.
Oh, all right.
Mr. Conklin, Mr. Robeson, another flash. They sighted the convicts near Petaluma.
Now, isn't that just dandy? And I haven't even got him in the warden's house yet. Keep bringing them.
Okay, as fast as they come.
What can I do for you now, Bill?
Look, Jack. I'm doing the scene where the convicts caught the warden and kidnapped the board. You start the scene after that, will you?
Yeah, well, what happened?
Here's the flash here. They tried to get across the Black Point cutoff, but the bridge was up.
Yeah.
Then they let one of the hostages off They threw him out to throw the police off their trail.
Yeah.
Now, it's all here. Bang it out in about 3 pages.
Okay.
I don't have much time, Bill.
I know.
Hey, listen to this text, Bill.
Go ahead.
Is that okay, or do you want the record?
Oh, the record.
Yeah, right. Hi, from Frisco, Bill.
Anything new?
Yeah, the convict car just turned down the Hicks Valley Road.
Can't those bulls do me a favor and catch that mob?
Do you a favor?
Sure. Here I've got the biggest story of the year and no climax to it. Ladies and gentlemen, at this moment, the fleeing convicts are being chased all over Northern California by a policeman who are your friends. Thank you, and good afternoon. That's a swell way to end the show, isn't it? What time is it?
4:30.
15 minutes and we're on the air.
Anything else I can do to help you, Bill?
I gotta get going. No. Now, keep your eye on the teletype and let me know the second any news comes in.
Then I will. I'll stick right with it. Gradually, the confusion settled a bit, and at least 2 scenes were roughly rehearsed with sound effects and music. As I pounded away at the typewriter, I couldn't help wondering if the whole thing wasn't a foolish undertaking. I remembered my wife's words, "It's impossible." And more as the seconds dribbled away into eternity, I began to think she was right. But the gods of accident and chance smiled in radio that day, because just as it seemed as if the show would be a complete clam bake.
Here's the chase scene, Bill. Yeah, that's it. That's good. Swell. Fine. Mary Garvin.
Yes? What is it, Mr. Mr. Robeson.
Run this right off, will you?
But I haven't finished the other scene yet.
Well, how much longer are you going to be?
Oh, we're doing it as fast as we can, Mr. Robeson.
Okay, stay right with it.
All right.
That's about all we can do in the script, Jack. I'll taper it off with a narration on the chase. Now, if we get stuck for time, we'll have to fill in with music.
All right, you've only got about 8 minutes.
Yes, I know. Give Sam Pierce a hand on the sound effects, will you? And send Fred Stark in here.
Yeah, okay.
Fred. Oh, Fred. Yeah? Phil wants you. All right, I'm coming.
Yep. What is it, Phil? I'm in a big hurry. I haven't much time. You're telling me. Fred, I've got to end this show with a chase narration. Yeah? Those guys are still flying around with that car. Put in that number you used in the Dillinger case.
I know the one you mean.
Yeah, that's the one. Give it the works. Otherwise, the end of the show will be an awful letdown. No climax.
Sure. I will run the boys through one.
Okay. Just 4 dangerous criminals are at this moment speeding down the Hicks Valley Road. The armed forces of society closing in slowly, relentlessly against the teaching lawbreakers that crime does not pay. Oh.
Robeson. Come here, quick.
Where are you?
Here in the teletype room.
Coming. What's up? I don't know, but this special flash bell just rang. Four convicts escaped from San Quentin this afternoon. Were captured. Wow! After a furious gun battle. There's the show. How much time? 4 minutes.
Stand by. Everybody, stand by.
Good one. Sam Pierce, hold everything.
Well, we're getting ready to go on.
Yeah, but listen, they were just caught. I'm going to write the scene. Now, I'll probably bring it in while you're on the air. Sam.
Yeah?
Get out the arsenal. Machine guns, 22s, everything you got. We got a big battle scene here. Now, you'll have to ad-lib it.
Okay.
All right, now watch me. Now, if I bring out my right hand up and down like this, that means give it the machine gun fire.
Yeah.
Now, each time I point my finger at you, I want pistol shots, right?
Okay, right, Bill.
Yes. Hey, you're not going to take a chance with the last scene cold, are you? Oh, what else can we do? But the cast won't even have a chance to look at it, you know. Well, that can't be helped. Tell them to do the best they can. I've got to get this typed. Now, there'll only be one copy. They'll have to read it over each other's shoulders. Right. Listen, everybody. Hold it, everybody, please. Quiet, please. Bob, listen, we haven't much time now. Quiet. We're going to have a new closing. Listen, everybody. You won't get a chance to see it. We'll assign the parts while we're on the air. Keep your heads and watch for instructions. Robeson's working on it now. There'll be only one copy.
1 minute to air, Goodwin.
All right. In your places, everybody. Fred, quiet the musicians down.
Quiet, boys, quiet. We have one quick run-through. The opening theme, Robert's March from Chu Chin Chow. In 2, Maestoso on the downbeat. It's 1 minute air time, Bill.
Okay, I'm nearly finished. 2 lines more.
Well, Goodwin told him to watch for instructions for the last scene. You think it'll work?
If we keep our fingers crossed. There it is. Let's get it in the studio.
15 seconds. 10 seconds. Stand by. 5 seconds.
Go ahead. Ladies and gentlemen, 2.5 hours ago, the most daring prison break in the history of California occurred at San Quentin Penitentiary. We now bring you a dramatization of this headline news story exactly as the events have been happening, as a special presentation of the Public Events and Special Features Department.
Charlie, right here.
We will reenact for you the daring break in the events which are occurring at this very second. Ladies and gentlemen, the San Quentin Prison Break. Early this morning, as the inmates of the main cell block in San Quentin Prison file into the washroom, Rudolph Strait, bank robber, joins Joe Christie, hold-up man, Alexander Mackay, British-born robber, and Fred Landers, highwayman. They engage in guarded conversation.
Come on, get your face dry and get over here.
What's up, Rudy?
I asked you the other day if you was willing to blaze out of here with a 45.
Yeah?
Well, today's the day.
I thought you was fooling.
I'm on the level. How about you, boys?
Sure. I'm all set.
So am I.
That's great. Now, here's the lowdown. The prison board's meeting with the warden this morning. None of those bulls want any trouble while the big shots are here.
Maybe they'll get some whether they want it or not, eh, Rudy?
You know, I've been thinking, suppose it don't work. Suppose we get plugged or something.
You ain't yellow, are you?
No, of course I ain't yellow.
You better not be. You're in this too deep to back out.
I was just thinking.
I'll do the thinking.
What are you going to do for gas?
That's all taken care of. You ain't got nothing to do but come along and do what you're told.
We got some 45 stashed away. Hey, who's that?
Fresh fish, I think. I don't know him.
Do you think he's wise?
No, he wouldn't be making a noise if he was.
You never can tell about stools.
Now, look. The board's meeting in the warden's office, see?
Yeah? So what?
I got a tip that they all go over to the warden's house for lunch.
Now, what's that got to do with us?
Plenty. We drive up in the old Ford like we were doing our work. But all the time we got the 45s in our belts.
Yeah. Then what?
So we go in and we snatch the warden and the prison board.
What? You're nuts.
No, I ain't. We snatch the warden and the prison board. They'll come in handy. Cops won't shoot so fast when they know we've got big shots in tow.
Holy mackerel. The warden and the prison board.
Yeah. They've been handing out and turning down paroles all morning. Maybe they'd like to see how it feels to be the guy on the carpet. And for once, we'll be the big shots. Kind of a funny idea, don't you think?
It's okay if it works, Rudy.
Oh, it'll work. We'll be out of this joint in less than 4 hours.
Look out. Here comes a bull.
Bring up there, you guys. Bring up. Get along there.
Take it easy.
A few minutes before noon, Joseph Stevens, Frank Sykes, Warren Atherton, Charles Cox, and Mark Noon, members of the State Prison Board, take a recess from their morning meetings to join Warden Hallahan at luncheon in his home within the prison walls. The pleasant, sun-filled room gives no indication of the impending danger that lies just outside those high French windows, where 8 hard eyes are watching every movement, 8 keen ears straining for every word.
Congratulated on the splendid work you're doing, especially in view of your limitations here.
Thank you, Mr. Atherton. No one knows better than I the necessity for relieving the congestion here in the prison. We have almost twice as many prisoners as the institution was built for. The result is unrest among the men. Can't be helped.
I presume you feel as though you were living on the edge of a volcano all the time.
Something like that. You see, gentlemen, the granting of early paroles is by no means the answer to our problem. When you have thousands of men herded together as they are here, there's apt to be spontaneous combustion, in spite of every effort we make to treat the men well.
You're quite right, Warden. The only answer is the erection of another prison.
It may be.
Pardon me while I answer the door.
Certainly.
Pick him up, gentlemen.
Well, what is the meaning?
Pick him up, I said.
Why, I don't...
We mean business, Warden. Up with him.
But look here. You can't come in here like this.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, well,
I've been wanting to do this for a long time, Warden. Have any of you mugs any protest to make?
All right, Judy. Cut out the rough stuff.
I don't like that guy.
Well, snap out of it. We didn't come here to bump the warden off.
Well, just what did you come for?
We're going to get out of this place. And we're going to take you with us.
What? What for?
You'll make good bulletproof vests.
You boys can be executed for this.
If there's any executing to be done, we'll do it.
Look here. If you boys...
Now, you guys take off your clothes.
What?
We're going to need them. Come on. Let's have your coats and vests. You can wear our uniform.
Leave my coat alone.
Take it off.
Come on, give me that coat, fella.
Oh, my.
Ah.
My coat.
Not so bad. Come on, fork over. All except you. You're too fat. None of us could wear your coat.
Well, that's consolation.
That's fit. Not bad at all. You can do something else for us, though. You call the prison gate and tell them to send the warden's car over and that we're coming through and to have the gate open. Go on, there's the phone.
Oh, but look here now.
Go on. Come on, lift it.
Hello, Westgate. This is Mark Noon speaking.
Send the warden's car over to the house, please. Yes, that's right.
Tell him that gate open. They're all coming through. They're not stopping.
And the whole board will be coming out in a minute. So have the gate open, please.
Now, you birds look like a swell assortment of cons. And we look just about as respectable as you did when you had these clothes on, I guess.
Come on, Rudy, let's get going.
Don't get excited, Joe. Okay, gentlemen. Cut through the side door here. I see the car coming.
Well, but what about the warden?
We'll have to leave him. He'll come to sooner or later. Alec, you talk to those guards. All right, gentlemen, make it snappy.
All right, you at the wheel. Drop that rifle, quick.
What?
Drop it, or we'll plug you and these guys here.
Okay, gentlemen. Pile in the back. You there, stay at the wheel. You're driving us. And this other guard, you stand on the running board. Come on, boys, make it snappy.
Look here, my man. You'll never get away with it.
Get in. This is my party. Okay, boys. Let's go. Kick that siren open and drive straight through the west gate.
Attention all cars. Watch for Studebaker sedan, license Diamond E6145. Watch for Studebaker sedan, license Diamond E6145. 4 convicts escaped from San Quentin prison in this car. Special emergency broadcast. 4 convicts escaped from San Quentin prison this afternoon.
Emergency call. All cars attention. All cars attention. Prison break at San Quentin. Prison break at San Quentin.
Hamilton Field calling bombing planes 211 and 212. Hamilton Field calling bombing planes 211 and 212. Return to your field at once. Return to your field at once.
Officers from San Francisco, from Oakland, from Marin County close in on the territory surrounding San Quentin Penitentiary. Parties of citizens are hastily organized. The bombing squadron at Hamilton Field stands by for orders that will send them into the search from the air. The state teletype spins the law's web across California, describing the escaped convicts, describing their fleeing car. A few miles out of San Rafael, the convict car turns off the highway toward the Black Point cutoff. A mile down the road, the cut-off drawbridge swings open with exasperating slowness. They pull up with a burning streak of brakes.
Can you imagine that? We're practically out of the heat when that monkey has to start pulling switches.
Nothing to do but turn around.
You're telling me. Now we gotta go back into all the cops in the world.
If you don't mind.
Shut up, you.
But I want to ask a question.
Let him talk. It'll make him feel good. What's on your mind, Toots?
What I want to know is, how in the world did you get those guns?
That's a professional secret. What you don't know won't hurt you.
Rudy, look.
What? Cops ahead. Get your rods out. Step on that siren, Mug, and drive. Yeah, just as I figured. They're afraid to shoot on account of our passengers. You boys are a great help to us. Look here, driver. What's your name, by the way?
Jones.
Oh, one of the Jones boys, huh? Well, listen, Jonesy. Just pull up a minute. I'm going to let our fat friend here out.
What?
Yeah, you're going to get out, and you're going to tell that posse back there to go on home. Or we'll bump off your pals here. Give us a half hour and everything will be okay. Pull up, Jonesy. Okay, get out. And don't forget that message. Get going, Jonesy.
Mark Noon, secretary of the prison board, immediately phones the prison of his whereabouts. With orders to hold fire as long as possible, the army of the law goes into action. As police radios blare last-minute flashes, a posse composed of hundreds of men and scores of police cars block every highway and byway in Sonoma and Marin County. Slowly the law closes in, combing the hilly North Coast country. As the convict's car swoops into the Hicks Valley Road, the posse sights it. The chase is on. Deputy sheriffs pull shotguns from the roofs of high-powered police cars. State patrolmen crouch over white motorcycles, unlimber guns, fire and scream. 10 miles, 12 miles, 14 miles they roar west of Petaluma. The law holds its guns in readiness. The convicts, still out of range, apprehensively look backward. Then, when they are 18 miles away from Petaluma, the convict's car takes a turn too sharply. The car skids, the law is within range.
Duck low, you guys. Hey, Jonesy, keep the car on the road.
Can't help it. They shut off the rear tire.
Oh, what's the matter with you?
They got me in the light.
Try to pick off that guy on the motorcycle, Joe. Come on, Jonesy.
I can't go any faster than 50 with that rear tire off.
Well, I can. Get out.
Oh, don't throw me out, for God's sake, man.
Get out. Push him out, Alec. I'll drive the thing.
Ah!
Gee, I never knew a guy had bounced like that when he hit the road. So you truly the captain on us. I can't get any more speed out of this thing than he did.
There's some buildings up here. Find it out there.
Okay, I'm going to stop. Jump out fast and run for it when I do. Speed into those buildings.
Are you all right, Hank?
I think so. Pick him up, you.
Oh, don't. God, don't shoot, Sheriff. That's Abbott in there. They made us change clothes.
Where are the convicts?
They ran into that building.
Okay, men, surround the building.
Look out, that car's behind you.
I got him. Let him have it, boys.
Buzz, 15 minutes ago, the escaped convicts were captured near Petaluma. According to the last news flash just given to me, at least one of the convicts is dead, and Warden Hallahan is lying in the prison hospital critically injured as a result of the assault he received at the prisoner's hand.
You have just heard the dramatization of the San Quentin prison break. This broadcast was a presentation of the Public Events and Special Features Department of the Columbia Network. Your announcer is Bill Goodwin.
Okay, we're off the air. Congratulations, Bill. That was swell. Holy, I knew we were lucky. Oh, that's swell show. Swell show. Bill, thanks, everybody. I didn't think you could do it, but you did. Thank Jack Von Nostrand. If it hadn't been for him, we'd never have gone on. Oh, he only wrote a couple of scenes. You're the baby. Hey, wait a minute. Listen. Open that window, Charlie. See what that kid's yelling.
Extra all about the San Quentin prison break. All about the prison break. Get your coffee and read about the San Quentin.
Ladies and gentlemen, you have just heard a behind-the-scenes dramatization of the fastest radio reenactment in broadcasting history. It was written and directed by William N. Robeson as guest producer for the workshop. This is the Columbia Broadcasting System.
If you missed anything, this information will be repeated at the end of the program. Welcome back to the best of old-time radio classics. And I'm your host every week at this time, Jerry Hendigas. While some biographical notices list his birth year as 1880, the 1956 biography and sound program narrated by Fred Allen has it as 1879. But in either case, the day of January 29th is a very important landmark in January, as that was the birth date of W.C. Fields. Of course, Fields himself exaggerated details about his past constantly. In a way, this was in line with the Eustace McGonagall character he played in Poppy, first on Broadway in the 1920s, then in both the silent and sound movie versions, and, of course, finally on radio. The Lux Radio Theater version is highlighted by excellent supporting work from Anne Shirley and a very young John Payne. From March 7, 1938, here is the Lux Radio Theater version of Poppy.
From Hollywood, California, the Lux Radio Theater presents W.C. Fields and Anne Shirley in Poppy.
Lux presents Hollywood. To the thousands of loyal listeners who wouldn't miss a Monday night with us, to the thousands of loyal women who insist on Lux Flakes, our grateful thanks. Your purchases of Lux Flakes make these programs possible. Our bill tonight is headed by W.C. Fields, Anne Shirley, John Payne, and Skeets Gallagher in Poppy. We'll also hear from Miss Margaret Graham of the Al G. Barnes Self-Floater Circus, who tells us of customs, costumes, and superstitions of the circus. Louis Silvers conducts our orchestra. And now, here's our producer. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Cecil B. DeMille. Greetings from Hollywood, ladies and gentlemen. Between the ages of 11 and 15, Mr. W.C. Fields, born Claude William Dukenfield, never slept on a real bed. He spent his nights under stairways, in box crates, and doorways. Having no home, he'd become the idol of Philadelphia's other small boys. The toughest brats for miles around would seek him out for a fight. Fields never could refuse a challenge, and his bulbous nose is really a red badge of courage. It stands today as a radiant monument to the valor of its possessor and to the amazing accuracy of his opponent's fists. His fame as a juggler began with a $10 a week job at Atlantic City. Fields was part of a free entertainment, which the management staged to stimulate the sale of refreshments. When business was dull, he would wade into the surf, scream for help, and pretend to drown. Huge crowds would collect, and while the victim was being resuscitated, the refreshment business would flourish. It was not unusual for Mr. Fields to drown 3 or 4 times a day. To this day, his character remains unchanged. He is still Fields against the world, a strange combination of cynicism and sentiment, of stern truth and honeyed prevarication. Mr. Fields starred in Dorothy Donnelly's stage play Poppy, and also in the Paramount film from which comes our radio adaptation. His latest Paramount picture is The Big Broadcast of 1938, and we hear him tonight as Professor Eustace P. McGonagall. The title role will be played by that delightful young star, the versatile Anne Shirley. Anne is from RKO Studios, where her latest films are Law of the Underworld and Condemned Women. John Payne of Paramount Studios is Billy Farnsworth. Skeets Gallagher is heard as Whifford. And we're off to the big show as the Lux Radio Theater presents W.C. Fields and Anne Shirley in Poppy. County Fairgrounds on the outskirts of a tiny Indiana town in the year 1881. At the end of the midway on a rickety platform stands a bulbous-nosed gentleman known as the Professor. In one hand he holds a decrepit banjo, in the other a quart bottle of purple bark sarsaparilla, guaranteed. With his old top hat riding perilously on the bridge of his nose, he leans down to the crowd and addresses them in a rasping baritone.
Now, step right up, ladies and gentlemen, close to the platform. Step out of the gutter, boy, and let the water run. You're here absolutely free of charge. My charming daughter, Poppy, the flower of the song world. In a song recital, and I shall accompany her on that noble instrument, the Kadula Kadula. I thank you. It is my privilege and pleasure to introduce the most remarkable scientific discovery of modern times. Purple bark sarsaparilla, $1 a bottle. 4 quarters, 1 smacker. Purple bark sarsaparilla, ladies and gentlemen, the one cure. Remedy for man, the beast, fish, and fowl. Grow hair on a billiard ball.
Will it grow hair in a pool ball?
All but the 8 ball.
It's a fake.
Now you impugn my honor.
So that sawing a woman in half a fake. I saw her afterwards in a restaurant.
Well, you astound me. I thought they were killing from 8 to a dozen women a day.
Let me through here. Let me through. I want to see the man who sells that remedy.
Ah, that's fine. Let's lead us through. How do you do? Lovely weather we're having. How many bottles? Quick.
None. I bought 1 bottle of that bile stuff from you yesterday.
Oh, so you did. And how's your Adam's apple today?
I never had an Adam's apple.
Oh, how unfortunate.
You sold me this stuff for my dyspepsia. I spilled a little on the floor last night, and my cat licked it up.
And this morning, expect to read it in your bulldog's eye. How interesting.
He's dead.
Overdose. He should have only taken a nip. Cat nip.
That medicine of yours killed him.
Just a moment. Step aside, young lady. Step aside. It cures hoarseness. Ladies and gentlemen, it cures hoarseness. It cures the most stubborn case of hoarseness. 1 little drop of this bottle, I can't take, will cure the most chronic race. Oh. It cures hoarseness!
Sheriff, over this way.
Yes,
he is over
Dad,
here.
we better get out of here quick, Dad.
Quiet, dear. Ixnay, I can pray.
Sheriff!
But she's getting the sheriff. Come on, Dad.
He's only twitting, dear. Just have fun. I'll probably sell a bottle to the Gildersleeve.
Where is he? Point him out.
Look, Dad, she did get the sheriff.
There he is, Sheriff.
Hey, you. He's coming over here.
Poppy, my child.
What, Dad?
Take it on the lamb, my little fawn. The Bunyan steeplechase is on.
There they go.
Who's Craig?
Stop going now. Hey, there. Let's get him in. Don't let him in there.
Birds chirping in the trees. Flowers rearing their pretty little heads, shuffling their little feet, and singing by mere Mr. Shea.
Oh, Dad, look. Do you mind if we stop walking for a while? I'm so tired.
Oh, how thoughtless of me. Sit down, my little plum, and rest your pretty little bones. Here's a nice tin can for you. Sit on there.
Do you think we're safe here? Gee, Dad, I'm so hungry.
Courage, my daughter, courage. The Green Meadow Carnival is just around the bend.
What bend?
Ah, you have me there.
Look, here comes a wagon.
Yeah. Gilpin's hurrying to the carnival.
Yes, but they're riding and we're walking.
Walking is good. Shortens the appetite. Here. Chew on this piece of milkweed. It's full of calcium, good for the teeth.
Oh, no, thanks. Dad.
Huh?
Dad, why don't you reform?
Reform who?
Well, yourself. Say you're smarter than any other man I ever met. Why, if we could settle down in one of these little towns and get a house all our own, why, you'd own the whole town and most of the farms around it in 5 years.
You encourage me in the 5-year plan?
Oh, you know you could get it without stealing, too.
Steal? Like Robin Hood, I take from the rich and give to the poor.
What poor?
Us poor.
Oh, us poor is right. Oh, Dad, I'm so sick of it. I'd like to be able sometime to look everybody straight in the face, and I'd scrub floors to do it.
How could you look anyone straight in the face when you're scrubbing floors, dear?
Oh, Dad, please. We can't go on like this forever, just living from hand to mouth and sleeping in haystacks and dodging sheriffs.
Go on, taunt me. And when you see my emaciated body lying in the gutter, say to yourself, this is my work, and step over me.
Oh, darling, please forgive me. But those girls who passed us in that wagon, did you notice them?
One tried to give me the office, but I played her for a chill.
Oh. They look so happy and so pretty.
Poppy, someday I shall be rich, and you shall dress pretty, too. You shall have frocks and gowns of diaphanous silk, and you shall have a coach and four with gilded wheels, and flunkies and gold braids.
Yes, and just how are you going to get all this?
I hadn't thought about that. But where there's a will, there's a way. And pardon me, dear, just a touch of liver.
Dad, please listen to me. Oh, I know you mean well, but it isn't only for myself I want those things. It's for you, too.
You want me to wear frocks?
No. And it doesn't have to be a gilded palace, either. Just a nice little place. Something we can really call our own. You know, we've never had that. I know it hasn't always been easy for you, bringing me up all by yourself, but, oh, gee, we can do better. We can, Dad, if you'll just make up your mind to it. Will you, Dad? Dad?
Fill 'em up, barkeep. Pass up yourself. Make mine Scotch on rye.
Oh, Dad.
Arrived at last, my dear. The Green Meadow Carnival, they call it.
Yes, but we haven't any purple bark. You haven't got a concession, and we haven't a dime in our pockets.
Don't change a thing, dear. Leave it all to me.
Oh, gee, I'm so hungry.
Hungry, my child? There's a place right over there.
The sandwich stand? But, Dad, we haven't got any money.
Quiet, child.
Dad, listen, please. You can't get anything without not paying
Proprietor,
for it.
proprietor, where's the entrepreneur?
Dad, please.
Where is that fella? Drat cab. Entrepreneur, my good man.
Good morning.
A little service, please.
Oh, sure. What'll it be?
Give me 2 of those luscious bologna sandwiches. Sandwich show de la chaîne.
2 dogs coming up.
Dad, please.
Do you have a double, dear?
No, I don't want any.
Oh, that's fine. Make it 2 doubles.
All right, here you are.
Thank
20
you.
cents.
Thank you. You have mustard, Parmesan? Some mustard, please.
It's right in front of you. It's 20 cents for the dog.
Right in front of me. Oh, yeah. Yes. Mm-hmm. No mustard?
Say, that's the best there is. If you don't like it, don't eat it. That's 20 cents.
20 cents. Is this lethal? Just a horse release flesh?
Of course it's fresh. That'll be 20 cents.
Oh, delicious. Price on this horse release, my friend. A little mayonnaise, my good man, and some cranberry sauce, if you have it.
And now listen, you horseradish, or mustard, or mayonnaise, or cranberry sauce, it's costing you 20 cents.
20 cents, huh?
Yes, 20 cents.
Ridiculously cheap. Very reasonable. Remind me to pay you at the end of the engagement.
No, you don't. You pay me right now.
Wait, here, mister. You can have mine back.
Mine also. I refuse to do business with a man.
You tramp, you've eaten more than half of them. How do you expect me to sell these now?
First you insult me, then you ask my advice on salesmanship.
Oh.
Come, my little lamb,
Hey.
and you keep a civil tongue in your head, or you'll lose our trade.
Come back here, you. You'll fork over that 20 cents, or I'll take it out of your hide.
Unhand me,
Yeah,
you wretch.
yeah.
Unhand me,
Yeah.
I say, or I'll crush every bone in your head.
Come on, shell out.
You take your hands off him. Let him alone.
He's ripping my coat. Let me go my coat.
Let go of your coat when you give me that 20 cents.
Oh, now you've done it, Danny.
Dad, what's the matter?
Oh, you'll pay for this.
Hey, what's the matter? I didn't do nothing. What's eating you?
It's broken my sacroiliac.
Huh?
My sacroiliac's broken in 6 in the 12
What's the matter here? Bring it up. Come on. What's the matter, Joe?
This guy here, boss, he wouldn't pay for the dogs, and now he says I broke his celiac or something.
The pain is excruciating.
Shut up.
Someone will pay for this and pay dearly.
I told you to shut up.
You know to whom you are addressing, young man?
I don't know who you are, but I happen to be the manager of this show.
Manager, eh? Oh. Someone will pay for this, and I think I know who.
All right, all right. How much do you want?
How much do I want, eh? Trying to bribe me. Very well. I'll take $10,000 in the concession. I should charge you $20,000. I always was an idiot where business was concerned.
I'll give you the concession and $10. Take it or leave it.
I'll take it.
Here. Your booth is at the end of the midway. Now, no shell games, no gambling of any kind or description. The mayor of this town is a very fussy guy.
No far fussier than I myself, I assure you.
All right, you can take over the concession any time you want.
Thank you. Very well, my little plum. It's just as I told you. Where there's a will, there's a way.
Good morning.
Good morning. Ready to open up today?
Yes, we're just mixing up a fresh batch of sarsaparilla. Can you please tell me where I could get a pail of water?
Sure. There's a little stream right down the way. Let the pail down from the bridge. It's pretty clear right there.
Well, thank you very much. Hey!
Hey, look out!
Hey!
Get off the bridge! Whoa. Hey, you all right down there?
You knocked me into the stream.
Gee, I'm terribly sorry.
Don't you even speak to me.
Shame on you trying to commit suicide at your age. Think of your old father and mother. Think of me.
Yes, well, if I told you what I thought of you, I wouldn't be a lady.
Here, let me help you up.
Don't you touch me. Riding a horse that way across a bridge, you must be crazy.
Yes, come on.
No, and stop grinning at me like a silly ape.
If I had a mirror, I bet you'd grin, too. Do you have brown eyes, or is that just mud?
Why, you... Oh, gee, I guess I must look terrible.
You know, I fell into a stream once. Know what I did?
You went and dried off.
That's right. Look, there's an old swimming hole about 100 yards downstream. We always hang our suits on a tree there. My sister sort of fit you. You slip into it, and I'll put the nag away, and I'll see you there in about 10 minutes. All right?
Well, all right.
Swell. You can hang your dress up and let it dry out. See you soon. I've lived here all my life, except for the time I was in college.
Oh, gee, it must be nice living in a town like this. So quiet and peaceful. And then being able to come here whenever you want. I'd like that. Oh, it's so lovely here, isn't it?
Yeah, funny, I never noticed it before. To me, it's just been the swimming hole. Now it's all changed somehow. Your eyes aren't brown, are they? They're blue. They're pretty, too.
Well, thank you. I guess I ought to be getting back now.
Say, wait. I don't even know your name.
It's Poppy.
Poppy. Gee, that's beautiful. My name's Billy Farnsworth. My father's the mayor of this town. I'm his son.
Well, that's a coincidence. Thank you so much for bringing me here.
Well, thanks for not being sore at me for pushing you off the bridge.
Well, it wouldn't do me much good.
Well, you could always sue, you know.
Yes.
The manager of the carnival was telling me about some old fake that tried to hold him up for $10,000 yesterday. Claimed he broke his arm. You could try that if you wanted to.
Could I?
Sure, I'd love to be sued by you. Then I could see you every day in court.
Maybe you'd find out I was a fake, too. Oh, excuse me.
What's the matter?
Nothing. I've just got to get back. Goodbye.
Hey, Poppy, wait.
Step right up, gentlemen. The fascinating scientific game of Find the Little Pea. I move shells around the table so. Find the little pea and you win. Two'll get you 4'll get you 8. A boy can play as well as a man. It's the old army game.
30 cents says I can find the ball.
The gentleman bets 30 cents. Plunger, take a choice.
I say, let me see. It's under the middle one.
Lift it up and see.
Nope, it ain't.
As I live and breathe. I thought you had me that time. I fooled myself.
Here's your 30 cents.
Thank you. Who'll be the next to outwit me? The classic game is no way a form of gambling.
Hey.
Game of science.
Here comes the mayor.
Yeah. What's that?
The mayor, he's coming over here.
Yes, my friends. I see him now. Yes, my friends, gambling is the root of all evil. And how well I know. Get rid of those shells. Get them out of here quick. For years, I was a victim of this horrible scourge. An unwilling pawn, caught in the toils of Beelzebub. Let it be a real lesson to you. Lead us in song, Sister Wolfinger.
Excuse me, sir. May I shake your hand, please?
Of course, sure.
We need more men of your kind in these traveling carnivals, sir. Men with a real message. Men of steel.
Steel, sir? Oh, yes, you're right. Pardon me.
Permit me to introduce myself. I'm Mayor Farnsworth.
Mayor, Your Honor, this is a surprise indeed. I am Dr. Eustace P. McGargle, F.A.S.N.
Well, go right ahead with the lecture, Doctor.
Sorry, I just finished. Half a ticket gold. Are you remaining on the grounds all afternoon?
No, I'm leaving at 4:30.
How unfortunate. My next lecture won't start till about 4:32.
Oh, excuse me. Dr. McGargle, I'd like you to meet Mrs. Tubbs.
How'd you do, Doctor?
Mrs. Tubbs is one of our town's most solid citizens.
She looks it. I mean, how do you do? How do you do?
I heard part of your talk, Doctor, and I think it was just thrilling. I wish you'd come and call on me sometime.
Oh, I'd be delighted.
Oh, thank you.
Shall we go on, Mayor?
Oh, wait, Sarah. I want you to meet Dr. McGargle also. Dr. McGargle, this is Mrs. Sarah Brown.
How do you do?
How do you do?
Mrs. Brown was a great moral leader in our community.
Ah, a woman after my own heart.
I hope not.
Very good, Sarah.
Shall we go?
Yes. Well, good night, Doctor, and good luck.
Oh, thank you, man.
Keep up the good work.
Thank you. Scarcely have left the grounds before I shall be hard at it again.
Good night, Doctor. Don't forget, you're going to take me round the carnival.
Oh, I'll take you, yes. You bet I will. She's all dressed up like a well-kept grave.
10 cents says I can guess what shell it's under.
You still here? Go away.
My name's Whiffin.
What a pretty name. Go away. You draw flies.
Well, gee whiz, all right.
Wait a minute. Who is that fat lady was just here?
That's Mrs. Tubbs. She's a widow. Kind of dumb, I always thought.
I just wanted to check on my judgment. Good day, Mr. Whiffen.
Of course, she's pretty rich.
Who's rich?
Mrs. Tubbs. Got her hands on most of the money in this town.
Is that so?
Yep, it was left to her in a will.
In a will, eh?
Yep, second cousin or something left it to her in a will.
That's very interesting. Very interesting indeed. Very interesting. Widow, eh?
Yep. Widow. You, thinking of something?
Yes, I was, yeah. As an old blind aunt of mine used to say, where there's a will, there's prosperity just around the corner.
We've come to the intermission in our Lux Radio Theater. In just a moment, we'll go on with Act Two of Poppy, starring W.C. Fields and Anne Shirley. Now, our producer, Mr. DeMille.
We continue with Poppy, starring W.C. Fields and Anne Shirley. It's early the same evening, and Professor McGargle has gone a-wooing. On the doorstep of Mrs. Tubbs' comfortable house, he adjusts his purple brocaded vest, flourishes a tattered handkerchief at his dusty shoes, and raps smartly on the door.
Dropping, hear those pennies fall. Everyone's for the professor, he will get them all and more too. What's the matter here? Everybody dead? Good evening, Mademoiselle Shrubs.
Why, Dr. McGargle, what a pleasant surprise. Oh, come in, please.
Thank you.
Well, go right in the parlor, Dr. McGargle. Welcome to my modest little cottage.
Oh, quite a charming lean-to you have here. Reminds me of my wickiup on the Magogo River. Tributary to Lake Titicaca. Would you sit down, please?
Oh, well, thank you.
I hope you'll pardon my intruding at this hour, Mrs. Flubbs.
Tubbs.
Tubbs, yes, thank you. Well, I came on a mission of utmost delicacy.
Oh, something to do with charity, no doubt.
Well, yes and no and no. Nevertheless, I'm ashamed to come empty-handed. I had fully intended to bring you a basket of hollyhocks, but I couldn't buy up. They're out of season. I didn't want to bring you canned hollyhocks.
Oh, of course, I understand. Let me take your hand.
Oh, no trouble. I'll put it right here.
Oh!
Oh, what a clumsy Japanese I am. I'm afraid I've broken your lovely vase.
Oh, it's all right. It's just some of the water spilling on the family album.
Now, here, let me dry it off.
Oh, water fades pictures, so it's horrid. Do you like water?
A little on the side. Give it to me. I'll dry it.
Oh!
The page is, this one's loose. This came out right in my hand.
Oh, well, it really doesn't matter.
Oh, you're too kind, Mrs. Dubb. I shall take this picture along with me and have a new print made first opportunity.
Oh, but you really don't have to.
Oh, say no more. Dismiss it. It's good as done.
Oh, well, if you insist. Oh, I'm rather proud of my album, you know. Such an old family.
Yes, so I see.
Are you interested in family albums,
They
Dr.
are the
McGargle?
fondest things I am.
there are some very interesting things in this one.
I'm sure. Well. John L. Sullivan.
Oh, no. This is my old Aunt Anna. Isn't she sweet?
Oh. Yes, she is. She's very quaint. What biceps. What a teaser.
Oh,
Mrs. Tubbs,
Look, this one here. The man with the beard.
What's that? Well, of all things, if it isn't Cockeyed Mulligan.
I don't know who Mr. Cockeyed Mulligan is, Dr. McCargle, but this is a picture of my husband.
Oh, is that so? Oh, what a fine-looking old codger he is, too. I hope you pardon the mistake, Mrs. Dubb. I confused you with a man who used to work with me, work for me, rather, in the silver mine, gold and platinum mines I had up at Cohen's Gulf.
What?
Harold Mulligan, the old stew. Finest fellow I would ever live. He hung before his time. He died before his time. Died young.
Did you say you own gold and platinum mines?
Oh, did I? Yes, it might have slipped out.
Well, that's very interesting.
Yeah, I always thought so myself. That's one of the things that brought me here tonight.
Really?
Yes. Mrs. Nubbs, when a man has spent his life at hard work, did I ever tell you the story of how Mulligan and I, pardon tear, dove off an escarpment of frigid ice into the Winnemucca River, each with a canoe under his arm?
Oh, how brave.
When we approached the opposite shore, we were confronted by 50,000 Skagway Indians.
Oh.
There they stood with their tomahawks raised high above their heads.
Oh.
Mulligan and I unsheathed our bowie knives and cut a path through this wall of human flesh, dragging our canoes behind us.
Oh, marvelous.
Well, anyway, nothing really. When a man has amassed his share of this world's goods, his heart turns to things of a more spiritual nature. He dreams of peace and security and a mellow old age in the company of...
Yes.
The woman I love.
Oh, Dr. McCargle.
Mrs. Trubb, has anyone ever told you you were beautiful?
Well, yes.
I knew they had. I knew they'd beat me to it. I knew it.
Oh, no, now, but wait. Before you go any further, Doctor, I think I ought to tell you.
What?
I shall never marry again.
Oh, you won't, eh? After leading me on.
What?
You can't take a man's heart and tear it to shreds, making me look like a knave in the eyes of the world.
Oh.
Me with a grown daughter?
Oh, the idea.
Why, it's a clear case of breach of promise.
What?
Women. A mere pawn in the clutches of an adventuress.
Oh, the idea. Oh, Dr. McCardle,
Yes, sir, Professor. That's mighty fine stuff you got there, and mighty fine of you to invite me over, too.
Oh, not at all. Here, have another lager. Sure. Mr. Whiffen, drink deep of the brimming bowl.
It's kind of hot, ain't it?
Can't hurt you. Purple box sarsaparilla, my own private batch. 98% spirits fermenti, 2% sweetener. We're talking about Mrs. Muggs, I believe.
You mean Mrs. Tubbs, yes. She has plenty of money, though it ain't rightfully hers.
It isn't, eh? How come?
Well, the whole caboodle of this estate belongs to Catherine Putnam, if she can be found.
Oh, missing heiress, eh?
Yep, been gone for 20 years, ever since she fussed with her father. She ran off with the circus. That left Mrs. Kind, Mrs. Tubbs, next of kin.
Oh, millions molding in the bank, eh? I'd like to do something for that poor, unfortunate soul. If I get my hands on that money, I could double it in a fortnight.
If you could get your hands on it, but nobody can, but nobody's going to either, until they find out what's become of Mrs. Catherine Putnam and her daughter.
Daughter, eh?
Yep, she had a baby.
How old would you be about now?
Oh, let me see now. Figure times figure is figure 3 times 18, the best of my recollection.
18, eh? Just about Poppy's age.
That's right.
And if that daughter, Catherine Putnam's daughter, if she could be found, she'd inherit the whole estate, eh?
Yep. Thinking of something?
Yeah, no, of course, no. Well, good night, friend, and I think I can call you my friend.
Oh, no, you don't. You're figuring on something. I can read you like a book. And if I was you, I wouldn't try to pass off my daughter as Catherine Putnam. Unless I had expert advice. Am I in?
My dear man.
Am I in?
Do you suppose I would try to prove that I married Catherine Putnam? Do you suppose I would try to fake a marriage certificate? Do you suppose I would say that my daughter is not my own flesh and blood, but Catherine Putnam's daughter? Do you suppose I would do all this for the sake of filthy lucre?
Yes, I do.
Oh, all right, then. You're in.
What do you say, Poppy? Once around again?
All right, I'll get the brass ring this time.
Then we've got to get off. I want to speak to you, Poppy.
All right, Billy.
Gee, that was fun, Billy. Thank you a lot.
Fun. A girl like you've been around carnivals all your life, and you still get a kick out of a wooden horse. I can't understand it.
Well, I guess I feel like you did. You know about the swimming hole. Oh, I never knew it was such fun before.
Poppy, you've forgiven me, haven't you? Well, you know, for what I said the other day about...
Oh, of course I have. You didn't know, and, well, anyway, I guess part of it's true.
No, but it isn't. Why, well, he's a swell guy.
Oh, he is a swell guy.
Poppy, do you still feel the same? I mean about, well, wanting to settle down in a little town like this.
Well, I guess so. Why?
Well, I could fix it.
You?
Sure.
But how?
Well, all you have to do is just stay here. Stay here and marry me.
Billy! Oh, but you don't know what you're talking about.
Yes, I do. I mean it. It just struck me all of a sudden, Poppy, but honest, I mean it. Like I never meant anything in my life.
Oh, Billy, you're so sweet, but... Oh, I couldn't do it. I couldn't leave Dad to go roaming all over the country by himself. You know, he's getting an awful lot of trouble without me.
No. Well, then it's hopeless, huh?
I'm afraid so.
Yeah, well, it's a good idea.
Billy, look, maybe someday...
What?
Maybe someday we'll come back this way, and if I do, and if things are different... Well, they may be different. You never can tell.
Oh, sure you can, Poppy. Poppy, would you give me something to keep until you do come back? I know it sounds silly, but I really want it.
All right. I'll give you the only thing I've got, Billy. I know it isn't much, but it's something. Here. It's this locket. I've had it ever since I was a kid. It's only a baby's locket, but, well, it's gold anyway.
Oh, thanks, Poppy.
Right up here, Mayor. The professor's temporary quarters.
You say you're positive that Dr. McGargle was married to Catherine Putnam after she left home?
That's right, Mayor.
Sounds awful fishy to me.
Here we are. Good morning, Doctor.
Ah, Mr. Whiffen, good morning.
Dr. McGargle, I brought Mayor Farnsworth to see you.
Oh, Your Honor, I trust you're fit this effulgent AM.
Good morning, Doctor.
Mayor Farnsworth wants to ask you a few questions.
Oh, proceed, Your Honor.
Yes. Doctor, what was your wife's maiden name?
My wife. You refer to Catherine?
No. The family name. Was it by any chance Putnam?
I'll be candid with you, Mayor. It was. But she rarely used it. A misunderstanding in the family.
Mayor Farnsworth is the sole trustee of the Putnam estate.
That's so. Very interesting. Very interesting.
Yes. Mr. Whiffen tells me your wife passed away several years ago.
Yes, poor dear. She was killed in Upper Sandusky. Run over by a pie wagon. One of those hit and gallop away drivers. One of the horses, a gray mare, sway back, Dabo.
Never mind the horse. Describe your wife.
His name was... Huh? Oh, yes, my little pride of yesteryear, pardon me. My pigeon. My little kitty pie.
What was her approximate weight?
Well, she fought as a welterweight. She varied from time to time. She dieted frequently, you know. You'd have to catch her on the scale.
Well, what was her average weight?
Average weight, let me see. It's just slipped my mind for the now.
Well, was it 100 pounds, 200 pounds?
What did you say, Mr. Whiffen?
Nothing. Got a little cough, that's all.
Try some of this pine tar elixir. Your cough intrigues me.
Well, Dr. McGargle, 100 or 200?
I would say offhand, 100 or 200 pounds. I never watched her closely on the scale.
Well, 100 pounds seems to check. Now, tell me, what about her height?
Oh, you mean how tall was she?
Yes?
Oh. Yes. Now, let me see. Your mind works so quickly, Mayor.
What's this? What?
Nothing, Your Honor. Let me see now. How tall was she? Oh, yeah. She was 8 feet tall.
8 feet?
Pardon me. Now, this is all very distressing. I was thinking of a piece of land I bought, 8 by 16, up in Cucamonga. Had a very fine view of the ocean.
Well, how tall was she?
I got you. She was 5 feet 3 inches in her silk stocking. Fraction shorter than her bare feet, of course.
Yes. Well, we've been searching for Catherine Putnam for years now.
You see, Doctor, if Catherine died without leaving any children, the whole estate goes to Mrs. Tubbs.
Oh, yes, Mrs. Tubbs.
But you have a daughter, Doctor.
True. Potential heiress to my vast copper interests on the shores of Lake Titicaca. High up in the Andes.
Tell me, Doctor, had your wife any distinguishing marks? Any birthmarks?
Birthmarks. No, she never slept in a berth. She preferred the smoking room. We always played blackjack for chewing tobacco.
Catherine Putnam had a mole on her left ear.
Did, eh?
Yes, she did.
That was when you knew her. I removed it later with purple fox sarsaparilla.
Oh, I see. Well, have you any other proofs?
Nothing at all. Oh, yes, I have a photograph of her. Taken in her teens in the mud bath of the manor house up at Punxsutawney. Now, where did I put that? She loved those mud baths. I had that around here, perhaps to mislay that. Oh, what's this? Oh, here, yes. This is our marriage license, which, of course, can be of no interest to anyone.
What? Let me see that.
Careful, please.
A marriage license. Doctor, do you know the value of this document?
Only that it is very near and dear to me.
By this, your daughter becomes the heiress to the Putnam fortune.
You overwhelmed me. What a coincidence that I should have carried it all these years. And now it serves to bring more untold wealth and happiness to my little plum.
I congratulate you, Doctor. Your daughter's a very lucky girl.
Thank you. You've been a great help, Your Honor.
I've always known that someone would come along to claim the Putnam fortune, but I've always been afraid of imposters, thieves.
Oh, thieves. Terrible creatures. I avoid them like I do whiskey.
We would have caught anyone who tried it. Yes, sir. We'd have given them 20 years at hard labor.
I know you might catch them all right. But the hard labor would be a bit difficult, I'm afraid.
That's right. But we've been spared that, Dr. McGargle.
I'm very happy for all concerned.
Yes, the Putnam fortune is in good hands. I'm sure of it. Well, I'll go and see about transferring the estate.
Good day. Good day, Your Honor. Good day. What a man. What a brain, if any.
We pause for station identification. This is the Columbia Broadcasting System.
You're listening to the best of old-time radio classics, and I'm your host, Jerry Hendigas. And now, let's get back to W.C. Fields in Poppy.
We've lowered the curtain on the second act of Poppy. Before starting Act 3, we spend this short intermission with a real-life character from the Big Tops and Sawdust Circles, such as we encounter in Poppy. Our guest is Miss Margaret Graham, wardrobe mistress of the Al G. Bond Sells Cloto Circus. Now, if I were visiting you, Miss Graham, in your tent at the circus, instead of you visiting us in the Lux Radio Theater, would you take me for a rube?
Yes, Mr. DeMille, because you'd probably ask me the 4 questions everybody asks anybody with a circus. Where did you come from? Where do you go from here? How long does an elephant live? And why are performing horses always white?
What would be your answers?
Well, I came from winter quarters at the Baldwin Park, California. In 3 weeks, we leave on our tour, and we don't stop moving until the last of October. An elephant lives to be about 100, because that's as good an answer as any. And horses are white, because white doesn't show the rosin, sprinkled on the back, of course, to keep the riders from slipping. Pardon me. What else would you like to know?
Oh, that's all satisfactory except the age of the elephant. Now, how did you join the circus?
Well, I started off with the Wild West show of Buffalo Bill as a rider way back in 1911. But my riding days are over, and I've sort of settled down to the less hazardous occupation of wardrobe.
No, less hazardous, perhaps, but equally interesting, I'm sure. Tights and spangles have spelled circus since time immemorial.
There's a lot more to it than tights and spangles, Mr. DeMille. When the circus gets to town, I have my own wagon drawn by 4 elephants to bring the costumes from the train to the wardrobe tent. We can't take any risks of costumes not being ready or not looking exactly right. And that's why I won't let anything but Lux Flake and water touch our fine suits and dresses and Spanish laces. And I'm not the only one who uses Lux either. It's part of a circus tradition that every trapeze artist furnish her own silk tights. They're very fussy about tights, and tights are very fussy things themselves. And if you would like, into my wardrobe tent any night after the show is over, you see those high-paid girls washing their own tights in Lux Flake. They won't let me do it for them.
A bit finicky, eh?
Well, it's one of the circus customs, and believe me, we have plenty of them.
You're not superstitious, Miss Graham.
Not superstitious, just careful. For example, I'd never think of whistling in a dressing room because that would mean that the girl whose trunk is nearest the entrance would get fired.
What happens if you hadn't intended to whistle but suddenly found out that you had?
I'd get out of the tent as fast as I could, turn around 3 times, and then come in. That makes everything all right again.
I see. Not superstitious, just careful. Any other things that are bad?
Plenty. For example, in a circus, no one in the circus would dream of playing a harmonica. That means an accident. This year, Joe, our trained chimpanzee, is going to play the harmonica in a new act, and while he isn't human, he's close enough to have all pretty much on edge. You'll never see a yellow costume worn on a Friday. Any other day, it's all right, but on Friday, it's just begging for bad luck. And nobody traveling with a circus would think of owning one of those old-fashioned camelback trunks.
What's wrong with a camelback trunk?
They're a sure sign that we'll have bad weather all season. And if a newcomer does know, why, anybody has a perfect right to throw the trunk off the train. And now, Mr. DeMille, let me wish you and Lux Radio Theater red days with plenty of straw and no dookie runs.
Well, thank you, but what's that mean?
Red days with plenty of straw means nice weather and a full house, and no dookie runs means that you'll always come in according to schedule. In other words, the best of luck.
Thank you, Miss Graham.
Thank you.
And plenty of straw to you. Now for the third act of Poppy with W.C. Fields and Anne Shirley. The news of Poppy's good fortune has spread rapidly around the town. On the strength of the wealth that will soon be his daughter's, the professor has blossomed forth in a beautiful new pea-green suit. As he strolls down the main street, he's greeted by admirers on every side.
Morning, Professor.
Morning, my good man.
Morning, Doctor.
Morning, friend.
Planning to fix up the Putnam estate much, Professor?
Somebody said you was figuring on selling it.
Yeah, what about it, Doc?
Gentlemen, I have already granted the Green Meadow Gazette a full interview on all matters pertaining to my daughter's inheritance. Therefore, I should not care to make any premature oral announcement for fear of misquoting myself. But I may tell you there will be a formal dance and clam bake and possibly a baseball game at the Putnam House in the very near future to celebrate my daughter's newfound wealth. And you are invited one and all. Try to get in.
Hey, Professor, I want to see you.
Good morning, Miss Whippen. Sorry I'm in such a hurry. May be able to squeeze you in for a few moments later on in the season.
Oh, you know, Professor. I said I wanted to speak to you, and I'm going to.
And I said, Mr. Whippen, that I was in a hurry.
You ain't been in such a hurry to let me have some of that money you've been owing me for the last week or so, you know. Get my hands on it.
Quiet. I'll see you some other time.
No, you'll see me right now, and if you don't, I'll publish your double dealings all over this community.
Shut up, I tell you. Shut up. If there's been any double dealings, my friend, I dare say you've had your finger in it your whole arm.
What's up, Doc?
Yeah, what's the matter?
And if you annoy me further, I shall summons a constable.
Oh, no, you won't.
Cease, or I shall smite you upon the sconce with this truncheon. You lug. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Make a day of it.
Oh, Billy, I still can't believe it. It isn't true. It can't be.
Well, if it isn't, you're certainly feeding the whole town for nothing. Look at them. They'll have that buffet supper cleaned up before it's even time to dance.
Oh, well, let them. I want them to be happy, too. Just as happy as I am.
You've got everything you want, Poppy.
Oh, more than everything, Billy. But, you know, I don't want to take it all. I want to give half to Mrs. Tubbs.
But, Poppy, I don't...
No, I wouldn't feel right if I didn't.
Good evening, Poppy.
Oh, Mrs. Brown.
How are you, Billy?
I'm fine, Aunt Sarah.
I'm so glad you could come, Mrs. Brown.
Do you think I'd miss it, my dear? I've been a friend of Billy's too long to miss the announcement of his engagement.
Aunt Sarah.
Engagement?
Oh, dear, I suppose I've let the cat out of the bag again.
You certainly have. Poppy, your father's going to announce our engagement tonight. You don't mind, do you?
Mind?
Of course she doesn't. You're getting a fine boy, Poppy, and he's getting a very sweet girl.
Oh, thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, as mayor of Green Meadows, it is my privilege at this time to introduce to you a man who needs no introduction. I give you that great entertainer, that kindly and lovable character, Dr. Eustace P. McGargle, F.A.S.F.
I thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I shall play for you this evening the first motive of the Dujajay from the opera Schreckensnatz by Gilka Kimmel and Ossip P. Bedapole on my beloved Kadula. But before I do, I want to introduce to you the marvel of the scientific age, Purple Bark Sarsaparilla.
Dad, no.
Oh, I beg your pardon, dear. I'm awful sorry. What a faux pas. Excuse me, ladies and gentlemen, I have a very important announcement. Soon, ladies and gentlemen, in this very room in which you stand, two of the oldest families in Indiana will be joined by wedlock. I refer to the family Farnsworth and the house of McGargle.
Stop it, I say.
Yeah, what's the matter? What's the matter? Who are you? What's the matter?
What's the matter with me?
Mr. Whiffen, what's the meaning of this?
Your Honor, before this goes any further, I want you to know that this man, the father of the girl who's to be your daughter-in-law, is one of the biggest swindlers that ever come down the pike.
What's that?
The man's mad. He's a dildo. He belongs in the nut bag.
Mr. Whiffen, you'll have to support those remarks.
I'll support him, all right. You got that marriage certificate he gave you?
Yeah, right here in my pocket.
Well, take a look at it. That certificate is a forgery.
What?
Yep, and I can prove it. He claims this paper was made out in 1863. You see that watermark there? Plain as the bones in your hand, 1881.
Oh, I've been framed. I've been swindled. Get a lawyer.
Dr. McGargle, explain this at once.
I shall explain it. Have no fear. I shall have my attorney here first thing in the morning. Poppy, take it on the lamp.
Stop that man.
Stop that man.
Poppy. Oh, don't cry, Poppy.
Let me alone, please.
Run along, Billy. I'll take care of her. Come, Poppy. You're going home with me. Poppy, dear, don't cry anymore. And don't worry about him. He'll be all right. Oh, they never made an arrest in this town except by mistake.
Oh, why did he do it? Why?
Oh, I guess he just didn't know any better.
But he does. He's smart, really. Honest, he is. Who's that?
No, I'll answer it. You stay here.
Good evening, Miss Brown.
Oh, Dad.
May I step in for a moment?
Yes, get in before somebody sees you.
Oh, Dad, I was so worried. You came back for me.
I have to say goodbye, my baby. I have been eluding the local band of assassins all evening. I saw the light in this modest cottage, and looking in the window, I spied you, my little plum.
Oh, Dad, please, you've got to hide. What'll you do if they find you?
About 20 years.
If you're lucky.
Quite true.
Oh, Dad, you can't. You've got to get away now. Come on, dear. I'll go with you.
No, my baby, you must stay here.
But I don't want to. I want to be with you. You're my father.
My Plum, I can't lie to you any longer. I'm not your father.
What?
No, my baby.
Oh, Dad, you're lying. You don't know what you're saying.
It's the truth. I found you with the circus when you were 3 years old. Listen, the bloodhounds are on us. I must go.
Oh, but Dad.
Here, my Plum. I empty my pockets for you. Take this worldly goods, $3 in cash, the shell game, and some private paper. They're all I have.
Dad, you can't leave now.
I must, dear. Goodbye, my Plum, and bless you. And one word of fatherly advice before I go.
Yes, Dad.
Poppy, never give a sucker an even break. If you ever wish to join me, telegraph me in case of the Ice Palace, Montreal.
Oh, he's gone, and I'll never see him again.
Poppy, dear, perhaps it's all for the best.
Oh, no, how can you say that? Oh, I don't care if he was my real father or not. He's the only one I've ever known.
Well, he didn't leave you very much, my dear. A shell game. That'll be a help. And a photograph. Ooh, looks like it's been torn out of some album. Poppy, what is this?
What?
This picture. Where did he get it?
I don't know.
Do you know who this is? It's a picture of Catherine Putnam. And that's her little girl right there, see? She was just a baby.
Well, are you sure?
Well, of course I'm sure. I'd know Catherine Putnam. She was one of my best friends. And that little locket around the baby's neck, I gave it to her at her christening.
Why, I have a locket like that.
Where?
I gave it to Billy. It's shaped just like this one.
Wait. Did you open it?
Well, open it. I didn't know it opened.
There's a picture in it, a picture of Catherine Putnam's baby. It was cut down from this one here. If the picture in that locket is the same as this one...
And if it is...
Oh, come on, quick.
Where are we going?
We've got to find the mayor, and we've got to find Billy, and we've got to find that locket. And here's the picture. He had it in his pocket, Mayor. Where he got it, I don't know.
That's Catherine Putnam, all right. And that's her baby.
Now, wait, Billy. Billy, have you got that locket?
Here it is.
Open it, Billy.
Give it to me. Look. The picture in the locket. It's the same as the other.
Then...
Oh, you are Catherine Putnam's daughter and the rightful owner of the estate.
This proves it, beyond a doubt.
Go on inside, Professor. Unhand me, you flat-footed Gildersleeve, or I'll kick you in the shin.
Dad!
I got him, Mayor. He tried to escape on a stolen horse. It was my horse he stole.
Oh, Dad, what happened?
The fortunes of war, my Plum. I never did think much of that horse. And he dropped dead right in front of the police station.
Mayor, you've got to release him right now.
Of course, my dear. Constable, take those handcuffs off of him.
What?
Go on. You can't arrest a man for stealing a dead horse.
Certainly not. What's the matter? Is everybody crazy?
Oh, Dad, listen. Darling, I've got the most wonderful news for you. I'm really an heiress.
Sure. You're getting smart now.
No. Dad, look. I'm really Catherine Putnam's daughter. We just proved it.
What, Catherine? Why, of course you are, my Plum. I knew it all along.
Then why didn't you say so?
If you remember, my dear fellow, I did say so, and you're going to give me 20 years. Well, I must say goodbye.
Goodbye? What for?
The carnival is moving, dear, and I'm moving with it.
Oh, no, Dad, no.
Yeah, there's no place for me here, but I'll come and see you, if I may. I shall come on Sundays for chicken dinner.
Dad, please, we want you to live with us.
No, my Plum, not a word. This is where you belong, my little baby. You'll be happy. And I could never feel happy or natural unless there was a copper at least 100 yards behind me.
Oh, Dad, I love you.
I love you, Poppy. Goodbye, my little Plum.
And that is the end of Poppy. Mr. Fields and Miss Shirley will rejoin us presently. Ladies and gentlemen, in this ring you are about to witness one of the most dazzling and electrifying exhibits ever countenanced by man. It is known to science as the probatus fieldsium, and to the world in general as the nose that launched 1,000 quips. Here it is, ladies and gentlemen, accompanied by W.C. Fields and Anne Shirley.
Thank you, but let's be informal. Just please call me Whitey.
Did you ever really travel with a circus?
Oh, yes, Anne. I once lent my services to a peregrinating mountebanks. I was with him for a brief sabbatical. It made me valet de chambre to the elephant.
You mean you packed its trunk?
Yes, I'll never forget my first day under the big top. The wardrobe mistress handed me a uniform, a dazzling creation of red and gold. The gold was counterfeit.
Did it fit you, Mr. Fields?
It fit me fine, Mr. DeMille, but it required every ounce of strength in my frame to get it on that elephant. Her name was Gertrude.
Go on, please. What happened then?
I recall one beautiful afternoon as I was sitting in front of Gertrude's stall when a little nipper ambled up, a child, Annie, with a bag of peanuts. The little wretch pointed at my nose and said, "Look, Mama, this elephant talks." My face turned red.
But, Mr. Fields, don't you know that anything washed in Lux never changes color? Might I recommend that you dip your nose, into a noggin of those beautiful Lux suds?
Madam, do you, too, wish to impugn my honor? I shall be heckled no more. Mr. DeMille, I bid you good night.
Gargle like a true McSpoken. Spoken like a true McGargle. Good night, Mr. DeMille, and thank you.
Good night, Anne. Good night, Professor Miller. To our stage next Monday night comes the exciting two-fisted drama of a man's fight for power and wealth. Force is the only law he respects. By force he wins success and a wife. By force he loses both, until he finally learns that there's another law in life, called love. Our play is titled The Boss. It was written by Edward Sheldon and proved a great hit on Broadway. It brings back to our microphone three superb Hollywood artists, Edward Arnold, Fay Wray, and H.B. Warner. Our sponsors, the makers of Lux Flakes, join me in inviting you to be with us again next Monday night when the Lux Radio Theater presents Edward Arnold, Fay Wray, and H.B. Warner in The Boss. This is Cecil B. DeMille saying good night to you from Hollywood.
Heard in our play tonight were Steve Gallagher as Whippin, John Payne as Billy Farnsworth, Helena Grant as Mrs. Tubbs, Lou Merrill as Mayor Farnsworth, Gretchen Thomas as Sarah Brown, and W.L. Thorne as manager of circus. Louis Silvers appeared for courtesy of 20th Century Fox Studios, where he directed music for the new picture Sally, Irene, and Mary. John Payne will be seen shortly in the Paramount film College Swing.
This is Jerry Hendigas saying thanks a lot for listening. Take care of yourselves, and we'll see you right here next week, same time, same station. Bye now.